It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Renee, Lori, and Alex are all here. We got lots to talk about. The GIF versus GIF battle takes a weird turn. Apple's saying we're not going to accept long-term HTTP certificates anymore. And we'll talk a lot about the ARM Macs that Ming-Chi Kuo says will be coming next year. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak Weekly comes to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 702. Recorded Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. Baby Alex. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Matthias, the Macintosh keyboard experts. When you need a new keyboard for your Mac, Matthias has you covered with beautiful options you just can't find anywhere else. Visit Matthias at matthias.ca/MacBreak for 10% off your purchase. And by Casper. Casper is a sleep brand that makes expertly designed products to help you get your best rest one night at a time. Get $100 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/MacBreak and using the promo code MacBreak at checkout. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news with Mr. Renee Ritchie from iMore and the fabulous Vector Show. Renee, what happened to all your beautiful lighting? You're just normally lit now?
No, I had to move stuff because I'm having repair work done, so the normal light is too far away, and so I opened up the daylight because the Notco always looks so much better than I do.
It is daylight,
and I'm busy.
Yeah.
It is actual daylight in here, Leo. I'm not used to seeing it, so it's very bright, and I have to shield my eyes.
The sun is bouncing off the snow. I think it's very bright.
People do make fun of that. They're like, why do you complain about the sun? You're in winter, and they don't realize that the snow and ice is a giant reflector, and it's like just beaming up into your eyes all day.
And it's bright white.
It's so bright.
Well, thank you for braving snow blindness to join us on the show today. Andy Anako also here from Boston Public Radio. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, but Renee's lighting is so bad you couldn't even see him blush when he lied about him usually looking better than me.
So
yes, that's how bad that's how bad the lighting is.
And from the fabulous iMore managing editor, Lori Gill, who was on Twit on Sunday, and it was great having you. Thank you.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was really great.
Yeah, nice to have you.
It was nice for me to do something like that on a Sunday afternoon, too. Gave me something to do.
Also, your name came up on iOS Today earlier. Because, well, I had to show everybody my blanket with all the Susan Kara icons that you recommended.
Will someone get Mr. Laporte his chamomile tea?
It's actually quite cozy.
I'm a little disappointed that after all these years, I haven't taught Micah the correct pronunciation is if. The G is silent.
If. We'll talk about that in a second.
Just if.
This is a Cairo throw from AreaWare if you want to get one. And the woven blanket designed by Susan Kerr, pioneer of the original Macintosh.
It feels great, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I like cotton blankets. I have quite a few of them. But this really, it does look like I'm ready for my tea.
It looks like you're getting ready for Matlock today.
I can't go on. Also, Mr. Alex Lindsay. He is of 090.media, at Alex Lindsay on Twitter, and has brought a special toy, which you will demonstrate at the end of the show.
Yes.
Intriguing.
So the
reason Star Destroyer.
We were talking GIF, is because we got some peanut butter in the mail.
Oh, you actually got some?
We got some peanut butter. It's been all over Twitter. Everybody's seen it by now. But I actually, the company that makes GIF, J-I-F, peanut butter, actually this is brilliant marketing, by the way. You can see it includes not only the peanut butter, but a special spoon, peanut butter spoon, because that is actually how you're supposed to eat peanut butter. On the one side, their normal label, J-I-F, creamy peanut butter. Soft G pronunciation. On the far side, GIF, animated looping images, hard G pronunciation. And the Giphy branding.
Daily bread.
Isn't this hysterical? It's an actual jar.
Yes.
More than 2 pounds of peanut butter. And on the top it says, if you've ever called a GIF a GIF, we forgive you. Now, obviously, they don't care, right?
Okay,
I do.
I have to wonder what put the bug up their nose to like 18 years after this was a thing to suddenly pull the trigger on this idea.
Hey, they finally hired someone that was less than 50.
A millennial.
Yes.
You nailed it. They got a millennial in the marketing department.
Is it also amazing that after all these years we haven't replaced animated GIF ifs with anything better?
The
millennials
pings
are
will
still
loop,
using
right?
them.
You can do an animated ping.
Yeah, it's just
But no one uses them. GIF ifs are still the cliche. People fire them off immediately. They're in Slack, they're in messages, they're on Twitter, they're everywhere.
I know, it's too bad.
They're amazing.
It's a terrible format.
It's a terrible format, but it's really fun.
It is.
It's encumbered. For a long time, there was this issue because it was created for CompuServe.
CompuServe, yeah.
But somebody else had the patent to the way the compression algorithm worked. So it was encumbered by this patent, and I think there was a lawsuit. I think that's been resolved.
Well, the patent only lasts a certain...
But it doesn't... Yes, this is an ancient format.
Like from 1802.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually compress very well.
No.
It's not a good
But
format.
nowadace, it doesn't really matter if it compresses well or
Plus,
not.
isn't it
because
only
it's just-
256 colors? I think it is.
But I think part of the beauty of it is that it's rough and it's just short and it doesn't have any audio.
And it's a crap
and
post.
It's internet
It's like a
nostalgia.
crap post.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's a great
pre-TikTok.
format because it works. That's we forget that it's nice to have things that are high tech and are high compression and have all the based on the latest research and the latest algorithms and papers. But all we needed was it would be funny, particularly in social media, to be able to respond to something by having that clip from Return of the Jedi of Han Solo going. And it's a perfect format for that. Everything supports it. It's well understood. The built-in media players of every operating system supports it.
No. That's not every operating system supports ping. Ping is ping. Everything supports animated pings. They're 24-bit, not 8-bit. They have 8-bit transparency.
Do we need it? And how are you going to talk?
Well, that's right.
Beta was better than VHS.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think I can't remember what an actual legitimate newspaper wrote about how that GIF has come into resurgency because it is kind of the perfect format for naughty video clips that if for the opening of Baywatch. You just want to see the clip of the handsome buff men and women just running in slow motion.
You can say Hasselhoff.
You don't want to have to.
You can say it, Andy.
Yep.
There's no shame in Hasselhoff pecs.
Well, I don't know if his pecs have been recertified for social media yet.
Backwards
but again,
compatibility with non-animated pings, simple to decode the default image. They tend to be smaller, much smaller than GIFs, but there are
Full
some
color
space.
space.
Full color space is 24-bit. I don't know. I think rather than this campaign GIF versus GIF, which benefits only peanut butter, why don't we have a campaign to get rid of animated GIFs?
I would argue that the young people aren't using them as much. It's kind of
I don't think they know
starting
that
to get outdated. They're creating their own memes now, and GIFs aren't quite as GIFs or ifs aren't quite as important as they used to be. So you might get your wish.
I think that they don't even know that they are GIFs.
True.
I don't think that they're just the images that you insert into Facebook, or they're the images that you insert into Messenger or whatever. I don't think that they know that it is a thing. What format it is doesn't really matter anymore. It's just it's a link to a thing that does the thing.
All right.
I blame Reddit.
Let's talk about Apple.
He's in a bad mood now. The whole
No,
thing
I
is-
just-
Can we put-
he's like,
can we
oh my
put
God,
peanut
this
butter
whole
on our
thing has
apple?
been
I
like,
have to
why are we
say
doing
this. Yeah, peanut butter on an apple is excellent.
But they sent you they sent you some peanut butter, and we talked about it for 10 minutes. That is amazing marketing.
This is the second show we've talked about.
See, that's
They
what I'm
got
saying.
more than
Did
their
you see
miles.
Pixel 4 in the Domino's Pizza Box Tulio? Were you in on that one?
Whatever they're paying that marketing guy, not enough.
Not enough.
Alex, so should we counterbalance this by quoting the USDA regulations on exactly how many insect eggs and full insects can be in a pound of peanut butter before the government says you can't sell it?
Come on, you're not a peanut butter hater, are you?
No. I love peanut butter, and
well, let's not think
jealous,
about what else is in it.
I'm jealous because
that's extra protein.
Because bug leg butter just doesn't have the same cachet.
I prefer locally made organic peanut butter. Myself.
I just make my own now.
This actually is horrible peanut butter because it's got. I mean, let's be honest. It's got sugar in it. They add sugar. They have hydrogenated vegetable. Peanut butter should have a short ingredient list: peanuts and salt. Would you read? You probably better eyesight than I do.
Are there any peanuts in there?
There are some peanuts. I think it's the number one.
I just want to point out that total sugars is the only thing that doesn't have a percentage of your daily amount.
Yeah.
You know they do that.
There's no reason to add suger to your the ingredient list.
They don't put total sugar. They don't put the percentage in there because they don't want you to think about it.
Right. Read the ingredient list. It's the blue. I don't know if you can read that. You have to. I can't read it. I'd have to take out my contacts.
You need someone with astigmatism like me, Leo. I'll take off my glasses.
It should just be peanuts and salt.
It's the best kind of peanut butter. It's free.
Blue on red. I can't read that.
Yeah, it's free. Well, I'm not opening this. Are you kidding? In 20 years, this is my retirement fund.
No, Leo, you need 2 weeks of food stockpiled. You got to put that in the Twit cottage.
Oh, yeah,
is there a GIF of that GIF? That's the question I have.
That's going to be your beer flu holdover.
Social media team has made GIFs of that GIF.
That's going to be the challenge, isn't it? Because as we now, the CDC is now saying, you know what, it's going to be a pandemic, and they're warning people to have 2 weeks worth of food, as you mentioned, Renee. Yeah. Because you won't want to, not because the grocery store will be, you just won't want to go because you'll be, so that'll be the challenge. Do I eat this or do I get COVID-19?
All I can say is all the Mormons are going, I told you.
Yeah.
I told you. We don't even have to go. We don't have to go shopping. Like we got it all. We got it all set up already. The day has finally come that they are right.
I've had for a long time a 20-pound bag of corn. I'm ready. I'm ready. There it is. That's the ingredients.
How's your pantry moth situation if you've got a 20-pound bag of corn?
It's dried. They can't eat it. Oh, by the way,
I got a lot of rice.
Jif peanut butter contains peanuts, so be careful.
Wow.
It is gluten-free. All right.
So
it'd be scary if it didn't contain
ingredients
peanuts. Like if it didn't say allergens.
Sugar.
Peanuts and sugar. No. By the way, this is Lisa's chosen peanut butter, so I can't take this home because she'll eat it. She loves Jif. It's her dessert.
Hydrogenated vegetable oils.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't separate, because it's hydrogenated.
Mono and diglycerides.
And
no triglycerides.
Everybody wants like all natural ingredients, no preservatives, until like the third day after they get that loaf of bread home and it's all covered with mold.
I love this. The sugar contains 2% or less of molasses, just in case you were worried that your white sugar might in any way be contaminated by molasses. All right. Enough. Stop the peanut madness.
Insect larvae.
Let's get our
legs parts.
Let's get our COVID-19 update. Apple is moving some AirPod, iPad, and Apple Watch production from China to Taiwan. I don't think you can stay ahead of a pandemic. I don't think you can just move it and then it'll all be fine here in Taiwan.
I think that they may be able to get a little ahead of it and get a couple more out. I mean, for Apple, the timing actually is relatively. It has a lot less impact than it would if it happened in September, right? And so, or August, or
if we're the fourth.
So we're in the slowest production time for Apple.
Well, maybe not, because aren't they shipping? Aren't they going to announce in the month? They're going to announce a new, Lori Gill phone.
Right, exactly. But
yeah, there's a chance that they do have some things in the production line right now that might be negatively affected by the supply chain being shortened and everyone being sick. Yeah.
But compared to an iPhone launch in September, it's a different level of impact. The
Digitimes is saying that at least 1/3 of China's production lines will lie idle in the first quarter.
Right.
That's a significant drop.
The bigger challenge for China is, I think, that the era of us putting all of our production into China is over.
Yeah, diversify. That's a good idea.
It has little to do with getting ahead of the virus and more to do with this was a bad idea. We shouldn't have been doing it, and we're not going to do it anymore. And that's going to have a huge impact on that economy as all of these companies rethink their production pipeline.
And still, a lot of stuff's made in China, even if it goes to Taiwan for assembly.
Right.
The stock market took a big dump yesterday. As people started waking up and discovering that COVID-19 was going to be an issue. CDC warning that we should probably plan. Coronavirus, ironically, is increasing demand for iPads because people are staying home and using iPads. So it's kind of it's a win and a lose.
I think that.
Yeah,
I think that's a tenuous analyzation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's again from Digitimes, so who knows? Digitimes has a mixed track record, but it is
also
interesting.
There are Taiwanese outlets, so it's possible that they want to spread the word.
They may have
that's something that positively affects the Taiwanese economy is coming.
They may have a dog in this hunt, as they say. All right, let's move.
I'll just say it's a good thing anyway. I mean, maybe this might be an opportunity for Apple to get out of some agreements that were really great agreements 10 years ago when they could lock in exclusivity and a massive ability to build lots of product at once. But now there are lots of positives to having more diversity with or without the coronavirus.
Yeah.
What's funny to me is that they made fun of our remote work environment for years, and now Lori and I are going to be going, "Oh my God, you shot the zombie Flanders,and Lori's going to say that Flanders was a zombie, and it's just going to just go from there.
Yeah.
Did you read? I bet you did, because you seem like this kind of people. Apple's tech reports on the Mac Pro and the Mac Pro Display XDR. Of course.
I tried, but
cover to cover, right?
I made so much coffee, Leo.
I actually started, but I couldn't get very far. Renee, how far did you actually get in?
Oh, I read them. I read through them. I can't say I understood everything, but I read through them.
There's so much technical jargon in there.
Yes. It's a PDF, which we will now proceed to do a dramatic reading of.
Can you do a Patrick Stewart voice?
Introduction. Mac Pro was developed with a singular purpose.
As you can see, the peak of the red curve.
Built with
I would pay somebody to audible this.
I'll listen to it in the car. I wonder if Apple would get mad at me if I recorded it.
Oh, you should do it.
I will.
Do it.
What kind of voice should I do?
If you don't, I will.
If they try to tell you to take it down, it will make it more popular.
I think it should be dramatic.
Remember to say aluminium, Leo?
Yeah, I'll say aluminium. Up to 28 core Intel Xeon W processor.
With over 6 different drive bays.
Oh, you can do the Sean?
All for perfect expandability.
He's going to do the Sean Connery version.
We should do a whole bunch of versions.
Oh, yes, indeed.
I'll do the Chewbacca version.
What the hell is that damn teddy bear doing in this studio?
Mac Pro
was designed.
I'm not
tackle the most demanding pro workloads designed it is.
What's happening right now?
This is all we have left, Lori Gill. Please.
So did you learn, Renee, anything from? I mean, actually, if I had a Mac Pro, I would enjoy this. I'd print it out, tape it to the side. Did you learn anything that we didn't know?
I mean, there's just lots of detail. Up until now, we were mostly getting information from people who bought them and either wrote about them on blogs or podcasted about them or YouTubed about them. And they could make a lot of educated guesses. And some of them were really good educated guesses about what exactly Apple was doing. And while they don't totally open the kimono here, because Apple still doesn't explain why they made the choices they made all the time, they do explain a lot of the underlying technologies. And it's pretty much what we expected. It is a miracle of engineering that applies to maybe 0.1% of computer users.
There is an expansion slot utility on the new Mac Pro that explains how to take advantage of the fabric, the switch fabric of PCI Express. I mean, I guess if you had a Mac Pro, if you're somebody like Alex who needs, a lot of bandwidth throughput, this would be useful to see and understand.
I'm blanking on his name, the scientist who did the review. Gruber linked to it the other day, where he was doing modeling of wind simulations, and he said it used to take him like a room full of Mac Pros. You had to put a window air conditioner in the room just to be in the same room with them. And this ran in, I forget what he said, but it was something like 14 hours on the Mac Pro. Never got noisy. Fans never were annoying, and it was 28 cores and 900 and something gigabytes of RAM, and it did what a supercomputer used to do for him. So he was really happy with it. But again, that's the specific user that it was built for.
Yeah, and the 46 pages, including footnotes, of this document is something that somebody who owns a Mac Pro and wants to get the maximum out of it probably would want.
Or someone looking at it, or someone trying to sell it to their boss about why we should get it. Here's the paperwork to show that. Because what this is a communication to professionals that we didn't give up on you. Because there were a lot of us that were like, well, we're just going to have to go to PCs for everything. And a lot of people have, because they just didn't have the horsepower. The Mac Pro wasn't ever going to do that. The iMac, even the iMac Pro wasn't going to get there. And so a lot of people were looking at what happens after the Mac platform for them in the professional area. And now this says, hey, you don't have to go.
You're right, because there is some sell in this. Here's this paragraph from the display document. Apple Pro Display Xdr reimagines the potential of a reference display, overcoming many of the limitations and delivering incredible front-of-screen quality, plus every feature requested by pros, all at an accessible price point. That's a little florid way of saying,
wonderful.
Yeah, right.
But it also answers some questions, because there were people were conflating whether it was mini LED or regular LED, and whether it was single layer or dual layer, and this just lays all of that out at least.
Yeah. Nothing that a competitor would use to try to, make a competing product, but enough for the buyer and the potential buyer to understand better what's going on. I think this is actually a great thing.
They should do more of those. They should do one for the MacBook Pro.
Absolutely.
I would love them to just do these for any high-end gear that they make.
Just the keyboard alone. What the hell's going on?
And make a video and a podcast.
We shouldn't have to wait for iFixit to buy and take one apart to get this kind of information.
Right. But Alex, I think you're completely right. I think there used to be a time where we used to make fun of them, but during the rollout, there'd be like the 2-minute sizzle reel from engineers and Sergioni explaining about the engineering behind it and what they put into it. I would, given the amount of work and creativity that goes into hardware design, and the fact that each design and each choice is part of a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, I would love it if Apple just did a 10 or 15-minute mini documentary on the technical side of every single product that they do, all the way from the design all the way down to being able to say, not just saying we think we're deleting the headphone port because of courage, but saying, well, here are exactly what we can give you in return for this, and here's the decisions we made. As a matter of fact, here's the problems we had in the iPhone 6 and including the headphone port. I feel as though Apple misses a lot of opportunities to tell its own story. And at some point, they're such an important company for so many reasons. At some point, they are going to be studied, and from academics and also just people who want to get inspiration for their own engineering.
Well, you're competing with, you're not competing for price, you're competing for mind share. And so it is really important that you get when you educate everybody, because you have to explain all artwork. If you buy $1 million for a piece of paper, or $200 million for a piece of paper, it's because of the story behind it. That's why.
It's not
that's why
just
you're
a
doing
banana taped to a wall.
There's also a consequence of not doing this, which is that we and others have to guess, speculate, and may get it wrong.
Right.
So why wouldn't
they have
you
a
want
workflows team, some of the best people in the world who could knock out those documentaries if they greenlit them.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, the white papers are a beginning anyway. I think a good start.
Yeah.
So thank you. And Apple, we want to encourage you to do more of this.
More, please.
I
did see some of the members of those teams, retweeting the link with an awesome amount of pride, and not all of them get to share their work that often. So
that's another benefit, right? Yeah. And it maybe they could put some names in here. There aren't any, but it definitely credits those teams and their hard work and their innovation, and people need to know what they've done.
Yeah. Also, all of us on this panel know how good a writing staff they have,
right?
Because a lot of our friends
stole all of our.
They're all there now.
Left journalism, and so it'd be wonderful to see them produce these sort of documents in house and just give us stuff to read. Like after we get down from our endorphin high from new shiny, look benchmarks, look 60,000 tabs. Sit down on our commute and just read about everything that went into this thing. I miss that.
So we mentioned last week that Warren Buffett sold some significant, he made a lot of money on Apple stock. Significant for us. To us. Still a small fraction of his 5.4% holdings. The Berkshire Hathaway has a very low. And there have been a spate of stories since about Warren Buffett the fact that apparently he was using a $20 flip phone for years.
Until recently.
And just got an iPhone. He's just switched.
Well, evidently, he's not just got an iPhone. Evidently, he did mention that Tim Cook had given him a few iPhones in the past. He just hadn't actually
never used
them.
But let's be really clear. Warren Buffett has had an iPhone all along. It's called a staff of people that are live at his beck and call.
He doubt he uses that flip phone much.
Right.
Yeah.
He said he doesn't use the flip phone much, and he didn't use the iPhone.
Get me Bill Gates on the line.
Here's what I want you to tweet. Are you ready? Start tweeting this. I don't care about character accounts. Just tweet this.
Just tweet it. He also
randomly
says,
quote things from science fiction movies to you, Jimmy. Go.
That's the thing about billionaires. They live in a world we cannot even imagine, I think.
Oh, did you see that video? Someone was trying to explain to humans what that amount of money was like. And they're like, here's a grain of rice. That's $1 million. Here's like a whole pile of rice. That's $1 billion. Here's a table full of rice. That's Jeff Bezos' giant vault.
Yeah.
And it was just startling the amount of rice that actually accrued when you got.
But it's not even understanding the magnitude of the numbers, which is hard enough. But what it buys and the world that you live in, where you could perhaps have a submarine in your yacht. Because you don't. This was we always. Paul Allen, who used to own Tech TV, had a yacht, very large yacht, with a submarine. Not only did it have a recording studio in it, but it had a submarine in it. And the story was, Paul doesn't like to, when he scuba dives, jump into the water. He likes to emerge into the water. So they built a submarine so he could emerge into the. We can't grok what a billionaire.
They had one of the Bronfman kids, because they're local to Montreal. They made their money bootlegging, like the Kennedys made it, and they were talking about like just growing up being a billionaire. And he said that what he did was devote his life to ecology. He buys buildings, he makes them eco-friendly, then he buys another one, and he says he does that because he knows that he would lose his mind if he just he's like, I would buy a 747 and crash it into a mountain. I could go hunting for any. Like, there's just no limits to what he could do. So he had to put incredibly stringent limits on himself so that he wouldn't just become one of those statistics.
Let's put it this way. If you made $1 million a second, which would be a nice thing, it would take you 30 years to make $1 billion. 30 years of $1 million every second, one after the other.
Do we ever ask about what does that do?
That's not right.
No.
Thank you, chat room.
No, it'd take a couple hours.
It wouldn't take that. It'd take 1,000 seconds. It wouldn't take that long. Never mind. You liars.
3 hours.
You got
still
me.
a huge amount of money.
You got me. Yeah, that's a good stat, though. I think everybody should repeat that, tweet it, and pretty soon it'll be true.
Yeah,
it'll be true.
We'll just change Wikipedia, Leo. We'll just change Wikipedia.
and when they argue with you, just say, "Don't math-splain me."
Yeah, but that is a legitimate. I think that is a legitimate problem.
It's a British billion. That's bigger than an American billion.
No, I'm not talking about the problem being math, but I'm talking about when you have these people who are in charge of such really, really important companies and in charge of really important economies, many economies. What does it mean when the person who's calling most of the shots has completely lost touch with what things cost here in the real world?
Exactly.
That when not only that, but when
not just cost, life.
Yeah, we saw that with Google, right? When Sundar took over, he started reporting things that Larry did not care about, paid no attention to for years. And as soon as Sundar took over, he's like, no, these are real numbers.
These are numbers. Billion here, billion there. It's like they always say about the Queen of England, to the Queen of England, the world smells like fresh paint because she never goes into a room that hasn't just been painted for her arrival. Life is different somehow.
Yeah, if you've watched The Queen, you see just how crazy it all is before she goes anywhere or does anything.
Warren Buffett, who owns, I should say, 5.7% of all Apple stock, he says, he told Squawk Box and CNBC, I don't think of Apple as a stock. I think of it as our third business, our being Berkshire Hathaway. It's probably the best business I know in the world, and that ownership stake is a bigger commitment than we have in any business. Oh, well, except insurance and the railroad. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Wow.
For him, it's a monopoly game. I want B&O, Reading,
and Geico.
And Geico.
Buy me water. Get me an ownership stake in water.
Apple is an incredible company. Buffett continued, I should have appreciated it earlier. Mm-hmm. Then I would have had even more money.
If we'd all just bought stock at the beginning of MacBreak.
He does say, I am now using, but not very often, the latest iPhone.
I will say someone I was working with in 1997 freaked out because his Apple stock hit was, it was like at $1 or something like that. And he said, "What should I do? What should I do?" And I was like, "Buy more, buy more, buy more." He owns a vineyard now.
A yacht with a submarine in it.
I don't know if he listened to me, but he's not working for a living.
I remember I was doing a personal appearance about 30 years ago. A guy drives up in a Rolls Royce. He said, "I just want to know you bought me that Rolls." I said, "I did." He said, "Yeah, you were telling me about zip disks when iOmega was just starting, and I bought into it." I said, "Well, I hope you sold it because it's going down."
Timing. What the Rolls with?
Can I get a ride home from the bowling alley?
Timing, yeah, right. Timing is everything. So let's, I don't know, where do you want to go? We don't do rumors. Do we want to do, there's so much, let me take a break and then we will talk about rumors. There's a lot of them.
Yes.
What was that?
Process.
Oh, he's saying it in Bostonese. Yeah.
My goodness, you've totally given over to the West Coast lifestyle. You've forgotten what it was like in the mean streets of New England.
I think he means alm. I think he's talking about an alm.
And then some births and some deaths and some things to talk about. But first, I want to show you this. We have a new sponsor, and I'm really excited because I'm a bit of a keyboard nerd, a little bit.
We all are.
And Matthias, which is a great Canadian company up your, actually they're in Toronto, makes the best Mac keyboards I've ever used for a lot less than Apple's Mac keyboards. This is one of them. This is a wired one that I've been using in the office because I just love it. It's slate gray, so it matches your Mac, but they even have gold. They have rose gold. They have all the colors that match your Mac. There's a few things I really like about this particular keyboard. First of all, it's backlit, and there's a little dial that lets you change the color. So you can cycle through the colors, which I really like. This is, though, the one that I'm using here and at home. This is their 10-key keyboard, and what I really love about this is it has multi-point pairing. So Edgar Matthias, I talked with him yesterday. He's the guy who founded Matthias Keyboards. He is their chief designer, and he is the ultimate nerd. He is saying, he says he chose to focus on making products Apple doesn't offer so that you can get more choice. So they have backlit wireless keyboards designed to look great with your Mac, a programmable Ergo Pro keyboard with amazing comfort, space, and a gel palm support built right in. This, though, is my favorite. This one is it's the 10-key wireless. One thing that he does, you can tell he's a fan. He's a keyboard user. One thing they do is they put a bigger battery in this than any other keyboard. It's 4 to 10 times bigger than other keyboards, which means when you charge it up, and I've charged mine up, you'll go a year before you have to charge it again. One of the main reasons I don't use wireless is because I hate it that it runs out. Can you show this? One of the reasons I hate it when it runs out of battery. It's not huge, it's not heavy, but this has, I think it's a 1700 milliamp hour battery, which is like cell phone size battery. But by having that kind of battery, a year's battery life. The other thing it has, I love this. There's 4 Bluetooth buttons here, multi-point pairing. So I use this at home because I pair. Button 1 is my iMac, button 2 is a Linux machine, button 3 is a Windows machine. If you press the control key when you press the button, first of all, you pair them, and once you've got them paired, you just switch automatically by pressing the button. If you hold down the control key, it remaps the keyboard from a Mac keyboard to a Windows keyboard to a Linux keyboard. It has all the Mac function keys up here. Yes, it has an escape key, thank God. It has a really nice T layout for an inverted T for the arrow keys. This is the easiest, nicest keyboard ever. They have mechanical switches. They're about ready to switch to the Alps switches, which are, in my opinion, the best mechanical switches, better than a lot of people use Cherry. I think they were using Cherry. I love the Alps. Alps is the old school mechanical. This is like more standard like the Apple keyboards, but with enough travel and enough tactile feel, I think this is great, and it's a quiet keyboard. The wired aluminum keyboard is their bestseller right now. This is the wireless one. Has everything the original Apple wired has and a little bit more, but you're going to love how it looks. There it is. Look at it. Looks just like the Apple. Apple doesn't make that anymore, but you can get it from Matthias. And it has a built-in USB hub, so you can connect your mouse or a wireless dongle. There's a second port available, which I love when I could sit down at the keyboard. Apple used to do this. Remember, they have a mouse one on the right and a second USB port on the left for like USB keys and stuff. Apple used to do that. I love that. I'm glad that Matthias still does. There are keyboards for PCs. There are keyboards for Linux. You know what I love about it? It's a Canadian company. So when you call support, they're up there in Aurora, Ontario. They're so nice. Carmela and Jen, they're so nice. They're so nice. They'll answer your questions. They'll walk you through it. It is a fantastic keyboard. I am a keyboard nerd. I love my keyboards. You will love it. No drivers. It works great with your Mac. Matthias, MATIAS.ca/MacBreak. You could check out the keyboards, find something that fits your style and your budget. They're very affordable, but we're going to give you an extra 10% off when you go to Matthias.ca/MacBreak, MATIAS. Edgar Matthias is a keyboard nerd. We were pulling out all the... I have the old IBM mechanical buckling keyboard. It was so much fun talking to him. And yes, you can use it with iOS. You can use it with Android. Anything with... There's Bluetooth, but there's the wired ones for USB. These are awesome. And I took this from my house because I'm bringing it home because I love this keyboard. Go ahead, you can play with it. That one's just like the Apple keyboard. They have others as well, including the Ergo. You're going to like it. Matthias. MATIAS.
The keys feel really nice,
isn't it? Yeah, just right. None of this silly. And you see, they have at the top. They have all the Apple on the function keys. You know, the brightness. They have the what do you call that when you press it and all the things, all the apps move? I can't. Expose. It's so great. It's so great. That's awesome. Media control, backlight control. You could switch your backlight. You could turn it up. You could turn it down. You could change the colors. I love the little. This is on the wired 10 keyless. It has the little knob. I should plug it in just so you can see the colors. It's so much fun. I love my Matthias. Matthias.ca.
It's really stable. Like it sits really nicely too.
Isn't it? Here, let's turn up the backlight.
This is a very expensive show for me.
Oh, you're good. Well, you know what? They're not. I think this is $99 this one.
I'm just saying in general.
It's too bright in here. You can't see, but I can do every color in the rainbow. It's so much fun.
It's awesome.
Fun. Thank you, Matthias. Welcome to MacBreak Weekly. 10% off. MATIAS.ca/MacBreak. You're with friends now. We are all keyboard nerds here. They do a Dvorak keyboard. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. If you're crazy. Anybody learn the Dvorak key layout?
I tried because I would love
to.
The problem that I had was I started programming when I was 10 before they taught us any lessons, and so I was typing with 3 fingers.
Right.
So I got like 3 finger, and so I was like, I got to just change my keyboard, otherwise I can't. I just got to force myself to relearn it. But then I just kept on going. I don't have time for that. Like I tried. I kept on trying, but I just couldn't get to a point where it was fast enough that I could.
Andy, because you write for a living, and Micah and Laura, you write for a living. That maybe there would be a payoff for that.
I change keyboards too often, and like the stuff you get, like if I get a new MacBook or I get a new smart keyboard, it's not going to be Dvorak. Yeah. So it would be great for like the keyboard I have at home, but it would just screw me over for anything I had to review or anybody else's.
Here's Micah's
I'm at least self-aware enough to know that the problem, the log jams of my productivity have nothing to do with my typing speed. There are other things such as focus
and
just move the cursor to the right.
I sat down one morning.
You have to think in Russian, Andy.
I sat down one morning and wrote 2,000 words, and I was like, I should just do this every morning. Yeah, that was the only morning.
Yeah, one morning I did that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was the Stephen King thing. He said to George R.R. Martin, right? He goes, you wake up, you write your 20 pages, and then you finish for your day. And Martin just wanted to throttle him on the stage.
Yeah.
The best writing advice I ever came across was just in a podcast with a screenwriter of The Usual Suspects. He said, some days you're just there trying to move the cursor to the right. And I was like, that is exactly correct. All you got to do is keep moving the cursor to the right and not focus on anything else, and you get things written. Yes, exactly. The greatest podcast episode of all time.
He's awesome on stage. Script Notes too. He did a Script Notes guest appearance a few months ago. It was really good.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's see. Mark Gurman in Bloomberg. Did we talk about this last week? I can't remember.
Which one? It's writing his pants off.
Mark Gurman in Bloomberg. Oh, yeah. Apple is considering, this is just a rumor, letting you choose your default iPhone apps. In other words, making.
So I know it's Bloomberg. I know it's not Gurman, but they write it as like they're my city council, where they're going to put together a commission. Apple may put together a commission to study the feasibility of forming a committee to make a policy and they know they like to hedge. Their papers of record, they like to hedge. But I just wish that they would just let them write sometimes.
Well, I feel like this might even be a trial balloon from Apple. Like, how would you? Because first of all, this has got to be in response to anti-competitive accusations, right? So instead of using Safari, you could use Chrome or Firefox or our sponsor Brave. Instead of using Apple Mail, you could use Canary, which is what I use. I would like that, so that when I click a link, it doesn't always open Safari.
I think it makes sense. I think that Apple should do that. I think that I'm not in the camp that believes Apple should be forced to do anything related to this, but I think that them doing it is a good business. I think it's a good business decision. I think it's user friendly. It lets people.
It's
do
better for their apps too. They'll be forced to compete and make them better if they want people to use them.
Oh, that's an interesting side effect, isn't it? Yeah.
And they'll still have the huge advantage of being pre-installed on every phone. So it's not as though they're going to lose the eyeballs of people. But those of us who have to use Gmail or have to use Outlook are going to be a lot less stressed out and a lot less annoyed by what seem to be arbitrary decisions that Apple has made on our behalf.
Well, and Steve hated this idea, right? Like, he thought that if he did this, Google, and they were fiercely competitive at the time, Google would come in and just make it a Google phone, and Facebook would come in and just make it a Facebook phone, and it would, people would be, in his opinion, junked up with all of these adware and spyware, and he was not a happy person in terms of Google and Android competition.
I think that he might have been, in the early days, he might have been right. I think that a lot of the apps weren't very well developed, and there's a lot of those pieces. And so I think that the fact that they're doing it now is because they have a pretty good chance of probably retaining 60-70% of that market, at least.
And they built it out over time. I mean, they had to do so. Originally, those apps were basically the services. They were indistinguishable. If you wanted to send an email, it had to pop you into email because that's where the functionality lived. And then when they made extensibility and all the other things, they were able to separate app logic from interface, and you could suddenly have different mail apps, with the share sheet popping up. And that's all and then you were able to offload apps. You could delete them and reload them from the App Store. And all of that sort of architecture was never built into the iPhone to begin with. And year after year, they've been steadily adding it to the point now where if you want to switch to Gmail is still going to have to do things like they're going to have to add a way for you to press that button and have a sheet come up and display a version of Gmail that's optimized for inclusion in other apps. And Google takes forever to update anything, so who knows how long that'll take. But all those steps had to be carefully laid down for them to do that, I think. So it's not just policy, but it's also implementation.
Right. One thing Apple has announced with Safari is, I think, a little concerning. They've announced that Safari will no longer respect security certificates that are valid for more than 13 months.
I think that's a
good idea.
We buy our certificates for our domains for 2 years because I don't want to have to constantly renew them. That means what?
Well, there are companies out there that do them every 90 days, and they just
Let's Encrypt does it every 90 days.
So, but then what you do is you just have to have a system that is constantly.
Let's Encrypt doesn't do though the wildcard certs that we need.
Okay.
I don't want to have to do this twice. Twice as often. I don't understand. What's the security benefit?
Are they still expensive?
Yeah, they're very. It's $800 for a 2-year wildcard cert.
I do think that one wide-ranging effect of this is that it does separate out the organizations that take security seriously versus the ones that are just going to do the bare minimum that they can do to keep their app or their service operational. We do have a problem with old certificates that go on for years and years and years, and that is simply it's sort of like when you go into a restaurant and you see that the restaurant looks fine, but the bathroom is dirty. That's a sign that you've got a malaise that's permeating the entire system. Security systems. My understanding is that security certificates were never meant to be. You get one rubber stamp and you're good to go. They're meant to be renewed. They're meant to be recertified just to make sure that the entity that owns the certificate is still the entity that originally purchased this certificate a few years ago. Admittedly, I'm talking from the point of view as a user. As a user, I feel as though this will lead to more secure websites and better protection of my data. If I were creating a service, if I were operating an app, and now I'm forced to spend a lot more money or go through a lot more trouble, I would certainly feel differently. But I do think this is a good thing for users, and very typical for Apple. Yeah.
I agree with you that it's good for security purposes, but Leo is a perfect example of this is. I think that it may be a 2-year, maybe 25 months would be a little bit easier on the pocketbook for some people, especially if 2 years is a very common time frame for certification updating. 13 months is maybe just a little bit too short.
And the question is are people charging what they charge now because most people take a long time between certifications? Will the price go down, or will people start taking advantage of that increased frequency to make it less expensive and easier to use? I mean, I can see services getting out there going, hey, we're going to automate this process and start moving it down the path so that it makes it easier for people to do it more and more often. And I think a lot of the companies making that are, like Apple or Google and others, I think they're going to keep moving that goalpost forward. I think that they want to keep on making it more and more secure.
The issue, and I'm sure Steve will talk about this on Security Now later today, the issue is that certificate revocation is a system that has never worked. In fact, Google just threw up its hands and said, you can't, don't. So if a certificate gets out that's bad or corrupted or compromised or counterfeited, what you would like is a way to tell all the certificate authorities, and the browsers all use the same certificate authorities, hey, that certificate says it's IBM, it's not, don't honor it. But there's no way to do it because for a variety of, I think, political reasons, but also technical reasons, people have decided that, no, we're not going to support revocation. We've talked a lot about that on Security Now. So if you don't have a way to revoke certificates, if a certificate is good for however long it is, 2 years, I don't know what the max that you can get. We do 2 years. I think that's the only option I have. But if there's a 10-year, that would be a bad thing because then that compromised certificate would continue to be good for years.
Yep.
So that's the theory is, everybody, in fact, I think that's probably what Apple wants. This is an intermediate step. It's going to go into effect September 1st. That means anybody who wants...
It's a year and a month grace.
Yeah. That anybody who wants ultimately to... Yes, because if you already have a certificate by September 1st, you'll get a year and a month. That anybody who wants to be accessible by Safari had better fix this. And I imagine the ultimate game is to get it down to 90 days, which is what Let's Encrypt does. And to do that, it's going to be a mess, but you're going to need to automate. Right? Let's Encrypt is automated. I don't have to think about it. I have Let's...
You like the subscription.
Yeah, I have a Let's Encrypt certificate, and it's free. I have Let's Encrypt certificates on my NAS and a variety of other things, and they just automatically every 90 days, actually even shorter, get a new one. That's good. It'll be the latest technology. It solves this non-existent revocation problem because a certificate isn't good for more than 90 days.
It revokes itself.
But, I mean, even the federal government... how many times have we seen certs expire and sites stop working because somebody forgot?
Even major stuff.
Yeah, major. I forgot. Yeah. Twitter or whatever. I forgot.
Yeah.
So I just worry. I think it's going to be kind of messy.
Well, yeah, I think it'll clear out a lot of things.
That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just got to, like in The Godfather, you got to get rid of all the bad blood that's been accumulating over the past 10 years. You got to do this thing from time to time.
Well, they are moving slowly.
Well, Google actually put this proposal in front of, try to do it right with the CA browser forum in 2019, and it was voted down. Google wanted to reduce TLS certificate validity periods to 1 year. Thousands of comments from users. This is DigiCert's memo about it. That's the certificate authority we use. Thousands of comments from users, which mostly showed opposition due to additional work required by IT teams to handle shorter validity periods. The ballot failed, which means maximum certificate lifetimes are 2 years. So 2 years is the longest. At one time, you could get 3 years. They were reduced to 2 years. So Apple is unilaterally saying, well, couldn't get it through the ballot. And Google does this too, by the way.
Google did it right. Apple did it right now.
Yeah. And that's enough. They're a big enough, important enough browser that people are going to have to just say, okay. I think I remembered that our cert authorities, we use GoDaddy and DigiCert, and I think that they have said that they're going to make it somehow automatic. But it's a pain. I mean, I just re-upped our certs for Twit and the Tech Guy. I think they're both with GoDaddy because they gave us a better deal. Sorry, DigiCert. and because I would rather go with DigiCert. But now I have to get the certificates onto the servers. Russell, I have to get them to Russell. He'll put them on. It's a process. It would be nice if it's automated. Maybe it will. But it's costly.
I think it opens up an opportunity for businesses to find a way to make it easier. That wasn't there when people were doing it every 2 years.
Right.
That okay, well, this is going to be a problem, and then people start coming up with solutions. I think that we'll see. But I do think you're right that I think that we're probably looking at 90 days. 3 to 5
Eventually,
years.
they
3 to 5 years from now, it'll be 90 days.
It's going to be like passwords. It'll be so inconvenient. People will be writing their certificates in little Post-it notes on their screens.
Well, right. And that, by the way, I want to remind everybody that the NIST folks who said you should change passwords every 6 months have rescinded that. That was a terrible idea. They made it up. There was no value to it. There are lots of downsides to it. Created chaos. So sometimes these, unilateral rules are not a good thing.
We can talk about this because we got a big thing across the front of here. What changed for me is LastPass. When I
it's easy to change passwords.
Well, not only easy to change passwords, but I just have hashes for everybody. I just let LastPass. If you have good password
security, there is no value in changing it every 6 months. That doesn't that accomplishes nothing.
And also, I don't because it's not connected to anything. It's literally a hash for everything. And so everything, and they all have different passwords. They're all hashed. Right. And it went from being this chaos where I don't understand what I'm going to do next with my pay. And no matter what you're using, whether it's 1Password or LastPass or whatever, you have to have that right now until we get to a point where it's all biometric, which is where Apple's trying to move us along to.
Security's hard. I understand. And there's usually a trade-off between convenience and security. And I guess we'll bite the bullet. And Russell, I got a job for you, Russell. Well, maybe we can automate it. I love Let's Encrypt, but they don't do the wildcard search that we need.
Yeah.
Use routers secured with HomeKit, says Apple. Add more protection to your home accessories by controlling which services and devices they communicate with on your home Wi-Fi network and over the internet. This is something we all want because right now your IoT devices provide a nice, highway into your network. And if they're insecure, you're insecure. But maybe, Renee...
Yeah, how much you want to work for it, Leo? How much you want to work for it?
Should I do a dramatic reading of how to set it? First of all, who makes these secure routers?
More and more companies have signed on. Yeah, it's a HomeKit initiative that they can sign up for. And I think Eero and a few others have signed up for it. But Lori keeps asking me, are they out yet? Are they out yet? And I keep looking around and going, almost. And it's been a year. It was the last WWDC, right?
Let me see. Here's the list. Boy, it's a short list. Eero announced. Eero Pro announced. Linksys Velop announced. That's it. So that's probably good if you see this setup.
I'm really surprised, given the lack of interest. I'm really surprised Apple just doesn't go, okay, we're going to build our own router.
They used to, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It's not like they never did one. And the thing is that this whole HomeKit thing is such a disaster because Apple's waiting for the industry to do everything rather than just going, we're going to put it out. We're going to start putting out devices.
And Samsung,
and then you
guys
Amazon,
can try and Google have bought the industry. There's very little industry left. They've bought almost everyone making this stuff.
The HomeKit, I don't think is ever going to work until really work. Because I am the target audience. I would put HomeKit across everything, and I haven't touched it because it just looks like this big mess. That I'm like the guy that would put it all through a big house and have security and have the whatever. And HomeKit is the one I'd want to use. But I just look at it and it just looks like a big morass that I don't want to touch. And I'm just waiting for it to settle down. And it just never settles down because Apple's not giving it enough leadership by actually creating products that will show us it working.
I just wish it were a little easier.
Well, it would be easier if Apple just built it. If Apple stopped trying to persuade people to follow a set of guidelines and just made it.
I'll do it because we use
everybody
Eero.
makes their own app, and then they all try to overwrite the Home app, and it causes chaos. I've had to reset it like 8 times.
Well, and by the way, if you already have, this is from Apple's tech support note. After you go through a bunch of steps, you got to find your router's iOS or iPadOS app in the App Store. Use it to set up your router. Wait for the app to ask you to add the router to the Home app, then tap Accept. If the app doesn't prompt you to add your router to the Home app, use your router manufacturer's instructions. Continue setup in the Home app by following on-screen instructions. When you're done, you'll see a notification that says the setup was successful. By the way, that one sentence covers a lot of territory. There's a lot of stuff going on there. After setup, if you already have Wi-Fi HomeKit accessories added to the Home app, remove them, reset them, and then add them back to the Home app.
And again, I think the router is probably the most important thing for Apple to build. Like Apple should just build a router that does this, and because it would allow them to say, okay, this is how everybody's going to link into it, rather than letting all these guys and trying to figure out some standard. This is why Apple generally builds its own stuff and doesn't do this, is because it doesn't work. You know, if you want everything to work together and just work, you just do it.
Does this help with the issue of an insecure? See, I'm not worried about the devices that are HomeKit compatible. The fact that the company's gone to the effort and expense of being a HomeKit-enabled device probably means it's secure and it's going to get patches and it's going to be up to date. It's not those devices.
And you can quarantine stuff that's on the network that's misbehaving if you need to, which is a nice benefit.
So it will add some security, but it's adding security to the most secure devices already in your house, not the weird Chinese camera you bought on Amazon. So anyway, there is a setting then that you can switch on HomeKit accessory security. You get to choose the level of security. Restrict to home, which actually means your accessory may only interact with HomeKit through your Apple devices. So it not only does it not connect to the internet or local devices, but you can't get firmware updates.
I mean, the only router that was easier to set up than the Apple router, in my opinion, was Meraki, and Meraki's really expensive. So like that's the only thing that I found easier to do.
Well, the Apple team made Eero, and I think they made a lot of the Ubiquity stuff too.
Yeah, Eero's very. I'll vouch for Eero again, a sponsor, but I think they're very easy. Yeah. I'm actually really happy.
Like Amazon bought them, and like Apple, how much are they really going to support HomeKit? Everyone is buying everything, and the HomeKit options are getting smaller and smaller.
That's a good point.
I just think it's not going to go anywhere until Apple just steps in.
I just bought it. I switched away from my Hue lights because they were rolling on the camera when I had 24 frames per second, 180 degree shutter speed. So I replaced them with expensive Quasar Science lights, but I hated it because I lost all the Siri and home control. So now I have an Eve Elgato power strip with 3 plugs in it, one for each light, and I can turn the whole thing on and off individually, and it's fantastic. But like Eve is one of those few independent companies that are still making things that weren't, bought by Samsung or bought by Google or anybody else. And
and that's Elgato, which did sell everything but the Eve stuff off. So who knows what'll happen?
Exactly.
I think it's Corsair now.
Yeah, Corsair bought it. I ran into the Corsair CFO on the way to CES.
Oh, yeah?
And he said, yeah, we own Elgato. Yeah. I said, I didn't know that. It was happened a couple of years ago. Yeah, so all the TV stuff, all the...
Yeah, I was talking about their green screen stuff, and it was I went up there, and it was like
Corsair. Yeah, isn't that funny? All right, let's tack Am. That's, is it like Smat Pack? Am. So, again, this is rumor. And in fact, it's a rumor from Ming-Chi Kuo, so I don't know.
Lori's favorite.
Is it that you like saying Ming-Chi Kuo, or?
No, I'm going to get myself in trouble one of these days, but he used to be somebody that we could really rely on for these kind of leaks and rumors and insight into the pipeline. But now it seems like he's just throwing anything at a wall and seeing what sticks. And, we're still relying on him for these like leaks and rumors. But he throws so much out now that it's not even like the percentage of that stuff that's right is like much, much smaller than it used to be. So
we liked it because he was in this in China and had the access to the supply chain, presumably. He now has his own firm. Mac Rumors got his analyst note talking, I'll read the salient paragraph. We expect Apple's new products in 12 to 18 months will adopt processors made by a 5-nanometer process, which would be amazing, including the new second half of 2020 5G iPhone, the 2H20 iPad. When he says, by the way, second half, it's of Apple's fiscal year, not of our calendar year, so that's next year's iPad, equipped with mini LED. That's interesting. A new.
Those are the fall updates that are going to come after the spring updates. It's a double. It sounds like a double iPad update cycle.
Okay.
Like 2012.
And then he's talking first half 2021. Again, fiscal year. Mac equipped with their own design processor. With their own designed processor. Presumably the ARM processor we've been talking about.
God, better not be Apple x86. That would be hilarious.
That would be funny. So it won't be. It'll be ARM. 1H21 Apple fiscal is what calendar?
Next year. Beginning of next year.
Well, no, it's first half of 2021's fiscal year. Their fiscal year ends in March.
In September?
No, this is first.
I think they're
This
fiscal
is
year.
Q2 right now, I think,
So
right?
I think it's
Q2.
September.
Yeah,
September.
first. Okay.
So the thing that struck me with this story
Fiscal
is
year
analysts
begins in
pushed
September.
It begins in October.
So begins in
1.
October, rather. So the first half 2021 is actually October 2020 through March 2021. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Who knows? It's a very weird. We've been talking about the possibility of Mac OS on ARM ever since the first MacBook Nothing, when you see the teardown and it really looks like a device that was intended to run a really, really high-powered but mobile processor in terms of thermal limits and power and actual real estate inside the casing. But even as I keep hearing more and more rumors, I don't understand how a Macintosh or a MacBook, the way that we understand it to be today, could make that switch without having some sort of an x86 interpreter, which would absolutely tank performance. I have to keep telling myself that if this is a real thing, it's probably going to be I feel as though it's going to be a sort of device that we haven't seen before. Either they're going to be making a new edition of a Mac Mini that's more like an Apple TV in terms of form factor, or maybe even they're going to create a brand new kind of Mac that implied in the design of the thing is that, well, you're not going to want to run legacy apps. You're not going to want to run Intel-based apps. This is going to be more like a Chromebook sort of thing, where we're going to find a way to sell a $500, $600, even a touchscreen MacBook, maybe even calling it something else, that will run every modern app that developers are coming out with. The development, it's going to be inclined more towards the sort of apps that are going to be multi-platform to begin with. So you'll have a native Mac app, but it's going to be based on an iOS app. Basically, I can't imagine a scenario in which in a year or two, we're able to buy a MacBook or a desktop Mac that is based on ARM. I think that they're going to create something that kind of sits between a standard Macintosh and a high-end iPad.
So the thing that struck me is that the analysts pushed back on this, like Ben Beharin, who's very keyed into silicon, and a couple of them were saying immediately, like, I love these stories, but I don't think so. I don't think that's the way they're going. And I do find it interesting. I think if it happened, Apple would come out and it would be almost like a repeat of Steve Jobs' original Power PC to Intel switch, where Mac's been living a double life because people have said they've had ARM Macs for like going on 10 years, and they used to dangle them like the sword of Damocles over Intel's head whenever they had a delay. But shipping them would be, we're going to be transitioning to this over a year. You have the iPad Pro, you have the Apple, whatever new Apple TV they put out in the next year or so. Those are your those are your development devices. If you put this firmware on it and you attach a keyboard and a mouse, you can start porting your apps. But I believe to sort of fix what Andy was saying is that it would be the absolute, I don't want to say lowest end, but the most hyper mobile version of the Mac. It would run Mac OS because they can make an iPad clamshell tomorrow for like kids doing tests in schools. That would just be a clamshell iPad. But it would be something that you wouldn't really need. It wouldn't be a Mac Pro. It wouldn't be running like anything that an Alex Lindsay would run, like Maya or anything like that. But it would run iPad or Catalyst versions of most of the apps. In the old days, your big worry was Adobe and Microsoft and a couple of the big suites like that. And they, there's progressive web apps, there's Google Suites, there's all these sorts of things that take a little bit of the edge off of that. That plus, if it's a WWDC to WWDC cycle, you'd have a year to sort of get the already good Microsoft ARM apps, which they're also building for Windows 10, Windows X10, Windows XX, whatever that combination of I can't take branding anymore, whatever that combination of letters is. And I think that at least for the 12-inch MacBook and that Apple TV style Mac Mini that Andy's mentioning, that could be a very interesting first salvo for the first year and a half.
Yeah, I definitely think for that mobile, like hyper mobile 12-inch, 13-inch machine, I think that it totally makes sense. I mean, I think an iPad with a touchscreen and the ability to use a mouse would go a long way. I mean, like it, and just being, with a handful of apps, you start telling developers, well, if you recompile or if you, here are the tools that you need to move your app out of Intel into ARM, if you decide that that's what you want. Adobe's not going to do that, but Microsoft will probably do that. And so you have the apps that make sense get moved over to to this piece, because I do think that the iPad is, there is this little chasm of use that sits between the MacBook and the iPad, where the iPad's not quite where it needs to be and the Mac isn't quite where it needs to be, and I think this could fill that little gap pretty effectively.
So one of the things that I was even more skeptical of is 5 nanometers. They're already at 7 with the A13. And one of the reasons I was skeptical is that, and this is from Wikipedia, the 5 nanometer node was once assumed by some experts to be the end of Moore's law. Transistors.
So these are marketing terms, right? These aren't actual terms.
They're not
anymore.
actually 5 nanometers? Oh, okay.
They might, so they decoupled them. So Intel says their 10 nanometer process is equivalent
to Intel,
TSMC's 7 nanometer. And everyone will tell you that Samsung and TCS, or Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, have different processes for the same number that they put on the size.
Yeah, because both Samsung and TSMC claim 5 nanometer production. They say they'll have it this year. Here's the issue. I wanted to read this last sentence about 5 nanometer. Let's see, where was it? I just lost it. Oh, transistors smaller than 7 nanometers will experience quantum tunneling through the gate oxide layer. So that's how small you're getting, although there is apparently a 3 nanometer node and even maybe a 2 nanometer.
With that kind of tunneling, you could be sitting there and your laptop just disappears.
Well, if you saw Avengers Endgame, you know the absolute consequence.
I mean, that's just wild. But I guess, so you're saying that Samsung and TSMC's 5 nanometer process isn't actually 5 nanometer? It's
unclear what the actual size is. I'm sure Nantech has a number somewhere, but it remains unclear to me that these are anything correlated.
It doesn't really matter because
ridiculoely small.
Apple's used TSMC to, it doesn't really matter.
Needs to get out there with a caliper and just figure it out.
Yeah, right. How can we measure that? It's pretty small. It's pretty small. So
it's nanometer small.
It's billionth of a meter. By the way, if you took a millimeter every second, and to get to a meter, it would take 30 years. If an ant crawled at a millimeter a second, it would take
crawled over
30 years to get to
5 nanometers.
No, that's wrong. So apparently 5 nanometers
tiny, though.
Is possible. It's very tiny. You get a lot of benefits in size, lower power chiefly, but also higher speed. The interconnects are closer. Compatibility is the big issue. And honestly, you can already cross-compile in Xcode to ARM. You don't, and I guess they're using some sort of.
They got rid of 32-bit apps, so it'll be a simpler. If they do, and I agree with Andy, it'll be horribly inefficient to do it. But if they do it, they've greatly simplified the story of what they would have to emulate because of the 32-bit app.
And let's not ignore that. Let's not ignore the basic benefits of Apple designing the whole widget inside and out. We've seen the amazing amounts of performance and power savings they can get from iPods and iPhones simply by saying practically nothing we buy is going to be off the shelf. We are going to design this chip to work with this chip under this operating system, tuned to the apps that are designed under these APIs. It would be super, super exciting to see what Apple could do with a more conventional desktop OS style computer when they too get to design the entire widget inside and out. Like I said, I think that anybody who's thinking, it's going to be like a MacBook Air, but it just runs ARM, it'll run for 18 hours on battery, probably not that, because I just don't understand how that would work.
Is anybody going to the shareholders meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. At the Apple campus?
Didn't get invited.
Well, if you're coming from China, I hope you arrive 2 weeks early. Apple has just put this notice out, is following the official guidance on COVID-19 from the CDC. We ask shareholders who have traveled to China in February to ensure they have completed the required 2-week quarantine period prior to attending the meeting. In other words,
when did they put that out?
Just minutes ago.
So they're saying, by the way, 14 days ago you should have quarantined yourself once you got.
In effect, they're saying if you've been to China in the last month, don't come.
Which I actually, if I
appreciate it.
If you've traveled to China, there are people I know of here in the U.S. that are self-quarantining for right now.
Yeah.
So hopefully they've done this, but definitely there's kind of a maybe they should have put that out, more than 2 weeks ago to give people a little reminder of like, don't forget, quarantine yourself for 2 weeks before you come to this meeting, please.
I bought this really expensive ticket and I'm staying at the Ritz.
You should have bought a time machine when you bought that ticket.
Well, with the quantum tunneling, I mean,
exactly.
How hard is that going to be, though? The people who are motivated enough to go to actually attend a shareholders meeting in person are probably not the sort of people that are used to being told don't do something that you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. That's what makes this outbreak so hard to figure out. That there are so many people that they don't feel as though they're part of a pandemic, and that look, I know I feel a little bit under the weather, but I'm just tired because I've been working all day for 3 days, and boy, it's going to cost me like $1,000 to stay in China for an extra 2 weeks, or to quarantine myself, or to change these tickets. I'll just go now. And I don't know how you tell a shareholder who's there probably to tell angry things to the board to say, yeah, but the thing is, you just got off a plane, and we just don't want everybody to die.
Especially if they're the CEO of Foxconn or something.
I honestly, the CDC today revised their virus warnings to say that it's probably going to be a pandemic. You should start preparing now. I wonder what's going to happen to conferences. Venice has already canceled Carnival.
There's some rumors starting about.
We got RSA in San Francisco today. Yep. We're going to a big LastPass party tomorrow. Should I wear a mask? What should I do?
Just don't shake anybody's hand.
Okay. Here in Boston, we have PAX East, the big gaming conference, and Sony has already dropped out. Another big company has dropped out. It's still going on, but these are going to be two like really, really big anchor presentations. So Sony was going to give people the first hands-on experience with The Last of Us 2, which was going to be just an epic event. But I can't imagine not only the problem of it being a huge trade show with lots of people, but in a venue where you're encouraged to please put your hands on this thing that thousands of other people have also put their hands on. So I bet that there's going to be like Purell by the bucketful.
Well, the real problem is because there's such a long incubation period on this, you can be you can have the illness and be communicative weeks before you show any symptoms. So we just don't know. And saying been to China, well, you should change that. Been to Italy, been to Iran, been to Japan, been to Hong Kong. I mean, it's a much longer list than just been to China. So
I was going to be a jerk and tell Andy they were going to show the 3D version of the PlayStation 5 logo, and it's a huge loss for all of gaming.
Yeah. Once again, I get, particularly when I was younger, I used to get a lot of crap that, look at the pale nerd who spends all the time alone inside. We are the people who are going to like live on to take over the world because no skin cancer, and also because I'm not touching anybody anywhere.
We're all pale nerds now, baby.
Do you have a hazmat suit, Leo? Do you have your hazmat suit ready?
I was lucky because I found a bunch of N95 masks that I had saved from the last wildfires, so we have those. I don't know. I'm going to put it. If you come to the LastPass party, I'll be the guy with the mask with the twit sticker on it. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what to do. I guess we're just. The good news is most people who get it won't die.
The vast majority.
Well, you fight the virus. And their percentages. Their percentage is higher than. I mean, not higher than the regular flu, but I think what is it like 70? A little more than 77,000 people.
The percentage is 25 times the regular flu. That's why they're upset.
Oh,
that's why they're worried.
Right, okay,
it's 25 times.
So yeah. Well, no. Yes. That will die from the flu. Yes, right. That's exactly. Yeah. So I would say, percentage-wise, you're looking at something kind of dangerous there. Leo, I can see it in your face that you're worried about this. And I think you're in this very awkward position of should I follow my health heart or should I follow my business heart? And that's a really tough decision to make right there because your health heart is saying, don't do this.
Well, and it's a little worse because I'm over 60, so right. I am not a young man. I'm very healthy. I rarely get sick, but I don't know.
But remember, it's wash your hands, your hands, and get the habit of not touching your face.
That's a hard one. I've been trying to do that. Yes, I asked the chat room on Sunday, tell me when I touch my face. You touch your face, you touch your face, you touch all the time.
I did that with hot chili pepper today. I cut a bunch of Thai chilies, and I'm like, just don't touch your eyes. Don't. Within 3 minutes, I touched my eyes, and I was screaming.
It's pretty hard.
It's
So Leo, put hot chilies on your hands, and that will remind you not to touch your face.
No, it didn't work.
Lori is basically saying, train yourself like you would train your cat not to lick the furniture. Yeah. So just, I actually, the only way I got around that was by getting in the habit of like carrying a handkerchief or a bandana in my back pocket, or in the winter months, I have the really good scarf. So anytime like I really absolutely have to scratch my nose, or I will die, I feel, if I don't like rub my eye, or I will take out the handkerchief, or I will use my scarf to do that, because that has not been touching handrails and subway things. But yeah, I haven't gotten really sick in a long time. Again, possibly because I'm the boy in the plastic bubble, but I digress. I think that
if you don't go out,
technically speaking,
I'm getting ready. I'm going to be ready. I'm just gonna
Can you hire a life model decoy, Leo? Can you get like a robotic stand-in, Leo?
Lisa said, this was great. She said, if you don't want to go, Micah and Aunt can go. I said, well, I don't want to kill them either. That doesn't seem like a good idea.
Their chance of survivability.
They're younger.
One of those rolling iPad Skype bots.
I have one of those, yeah.
This is why ninjas never work. You just look like a ninja. Like, how are you supposed to be stealthy in a guy like that?
All right, I'm ready now. No, actually, Andy, I do carry a handkerchief with me at all times. So I'll just, is this
YouTube
good?
YouTube is going to demonetize this now because you look like you're holding Andy for ransom.
Also,
and then just don't touch your eyes. Maybe if I were... No, gloves won't work because you still are touching something and then touching.
You've seen a big face mask,
but
one of those big combat face masks.
Goggles. I got goggles.
One of those goggles.
How about the huge beaks from the Middle Ages?
I said hazmat suit. Even Alex laughed, and now he's basically building a hazmat suit.
Exactly. There is an Indiegogo
Stormtrooper cosplay, tax deductible Stormtrooper cosplay.
You could go as Phasma.
There is an Indiegogo for plague doctor masks, for N95 masks. So you could have the beak and walk around. And
see?
That would be a good mask. And just say,
it would keep people away from you.
Carnival.
Well, Leo, you have to fight the virus and you have to fight the fear. It's a double. That's why these attacks are always double damaging.
All right.
We require $20 to release the nutco.
Stay healthy. We love you, Leo. You have to do. Stay healthy.
Well, if I die, I died in a good cause.
There you go.
Making money for Twit.
That's not good. No, don't do that.
That is not a good cause.
Not good enough to die for.
Let's see. What else? What else do you want to talk about?
Please don't say AirPods Lite. Can't take any more AirPods Lite.
Okay. Steve Jobs would have been 65 yesterday.
Retirement age. Good for him.
No, it doesn't feel like Steve would have ever retired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wonder though if he just had that really, as an outside observer who's only met him once, like if it's interesting to think what he would have done if he had remained in perfect health, if he were restless enough that he would have retired from Apple but moved on to something else. It's interesting to think of what he could have done even privately in philanthropy. I'm less interested by what he would do at Apple, but what he would do in the rest of the world.
Lorene, his wife, is actually doing a lot of philanthropy with his estate. So, that's an interesting question. But I think, he's a huge loss.
He's a product guy, though, right? I don't know if he could have. Like Bill Gates. I still can't believe Bill Gates, who was like, power of software. He's done amazing things, but just to walk away from Microsoft, some founders never leave.
No, I know. And I think credit to Bill's wife, Melinda, who early on convinced him to create the Gates Foundation. And I think has helped guide him in a very positive way.
Absolutely.
And so I think Lorene would have done the same thing for Steve, to be honest. She's always been very politically aware.
That loops back to what we were talking about earlier. That I think that a lot of people, myself included, if we had that kind of wealth, like if we fantasize about that kind of wealth, the fantasy is not only okay. You go nuts for maybe about a year, and you have Sylvester Stallone sing at your birthday party, all that sort of stuff. But the ability to simply say, "Oh, here's an organization that says we could eradicate this disease for $80 million." Okay, write you a check. Done. Put your money where your mouth is. Or all the way down to there's a underfunding for a school lunch program. So, well, guess what? Congratulations. For the next 10 years at least, all school lunches at your school are free. And don't you put my name on anything. That's what impresses me about certain when people achieve a certain area of wealth, where it's not like, gee, I can essentially buy this golf course and this small town next to it and turn it into my private estate. Like that's one of the things that's so admirable about what Bill Gates and others do with their money, because that was literally with the Gates Foundation. Literally, it's like, hey, really, you're saying that we could absolutely eradicate polio and certain kinds of blindness by just writing a check? I have a check. Great.
But I do wonder if, like, in the back of their mind, like Bill, like still doing everything that he did for charity, but in the back of his mind going, well, if I hadn't let Steve take over, maybe we wouldn't have lost mobile. Or if Steve Jobs did the same thing, he would have said, oh, my HomePod would have sold 1 billion units in the first year. Like, just those sorts of perseverating thoughts.
The guy who was on the Xerox PARC team that showed Steve Jobs the Xerox graphical interface, the menus, the mouse, and inspired Jobs to create the Macintosh, has passed away. Larry Tesler. He joined Apple shortly after that in 1980, worked through 1997 as an Apple vice president, passed away Monday at the age of 74. A couple of things Tesler was well known for. One, his license plate said no modes. In the early days of Apple, this was part of the user interface guidelines, and of course Larry was a UI guy. And one of the things Apple really didn't want was modes. In computing, with a command line computing, it's all mode. You're doing what you're doing, and then you do something else. But once you got Windows, there was kind of a debate. There were a lot of what we call modal dialogues, where boxes that popped up and wouldn't let you do anything else till you click the link. Larry said, no, there shouldn't be any modes. You should be able to, move around in between windows at your will and do whatever you want. You should never be locked into something. By the way, while he won that battle, I don't know if he won the war, because the iPad is famously modal.
Even iTunes. Remember those iTunes pop-ups?
Yeah. And there are some things that have to be modal. Yeah. But I was always impressed, and I talked a lot about that in the early days of the Macintosh, the idea of no modes. He also created something that we use every single day, probably every hour: cut, copy, and paste. He invented the idea, and thank goodness.
Well, he converted the idea from print. Because what print did was it wasn't cut, copy, and paste, but it was cut and paste. You would cut something actually out and paste it over something else.
I remember, early on learning about writing, and I can't remember if it was, I think it might have been Strunk and White or so. Carson probably remembers. That was the advice, after you've written something, cut out paragraphs and move them around and paste them in different places. Right. Literally cutting and pasting with, wheat paste. He, of course, did it with Command C, Command V, and Command X.
But just think about how it's very easy for us to understand that concept, because it's part of our vocabulary now. But imagine when you have this physical thing of physically cutting things from one to another, thinking that we want that would be an interesting thing to implement somehow digitally at a time when graphic user interfaces are wow. Look how accomplished we are getting by actually having a mouse move a cursor and pulling a drop down menu. It was a mind-busting thing when it first appeared on a mainstream computer, and it's amazing to think about someone who can create something from zero, to just imagine this thing existing without something else to refer to in the tech world because of that. I will never downplay that, and because that is a special kind of brain. That's a special kind of imagination.
It was probably I'm thinking it was the Xerox Star. That they were shown, which was a very early, it was considered an office productivity tool. I think cut, copy, and paste really misses the real point. It's the clipboard that's the brilliant invention. The notion that you have this storage that you don't see that you could put something onto and retrieve it from later is really the kind of the seminal invention.
Human relatable. Like he was so good at making technology human relatable.
Yeah.
And when you think of where it's come from, the fact that every day now I just go, I can copy something on my computer and then paste it on my iPhone. My clipboard is virtualized in all my devices. I'm just kind of like,
isn't that amazing?
This is amazing. Every time I do it,
virtualized.
I still have not gotten over it. Where every time I cut and paste between devices, I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I use it all day, every day.
Yep.
So thank you, Larry Tesler, really one of the great minds at Apple, a guy who was very influential in what happened with the Macintosh. He worked on the Lisa as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, as long as we're talking passings, I mentioned this on Sunday. What's it? No, is it Evan Sutherland? Passed away, and he's another. He was an internet pioneer. Probably less connected with Apple. He worked at Bolt, Beranek, and Newman when the original internet was created, ARPANET. I'm going to pull up his obituary because I'm doing a terrible.
Yeah, but while you're looking that up, this is what I'm on about wishing that Apple would document its history a lot more, because we need all of these pioneers to tell their stories and get those stories down, because history can forget that there was a person who saw cut, copy, and paste as the fulcrum of pretty much everything that was going to be coming in the next 10 years. It wasn't just something that someone noticed, a scientist noticed a bird, cut, copying, and pasting it in nature and decided to duplicate that. And without that sort of history being recorded, without that first-person testimony being saved, we forget how to innovate. We forget how to develop products, and we create wrong expectations for exactly how hard it is to really push the needle when it comes to developing a product.
It's one advantage I have is been around a long time now, and I remember these guys, I remember these names, and I remember those stages, and I remember going from a Z80 running CPM to MS-DOS, and then
I remember when they added layers to Photoshop, and I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. Yeah. Like, I had to think about it for a little while. I was like, layers. And then David B. Edney, who's one of the early trainers, and Burt Monroy, they had a class in South San Francisco on the new Photoshop and how to take advantage of layers, and Burt was up there showing. Yeah, we talked about that. But it was what was fascinating. I had to go to a class to make sure I understood how to take advantage of it, because when I saw it, I was like, I don't know what I would do.
It was a brilliant insight. Actually. Yeah. So it's Burt Sutherland, Ivan Sutherland's brother. Ivan Sutherland, very well known for graphics. Burt was an American computer scientist. He passed away on the 18th. He was at Sun, he was at Park, and he was at BBN and helped develop the internet. He also was participating in the creation of the personal computer, microprocessors, Smalltalk, Java, and the internet.
He did
a little bit of stuff.
A couple things.
So
it's also worth pointing, if you go to the Computer History Museum, they have a bunch of text, but they've also been putting up videos, and they have long, like, multi-part interviews with Scott Forstall and a lot of the old Apple engineers just talking about all of this stuff and everything that Apple hasn't preserved. They've been doing an amazing job of getting those people in there and recording them and just
does Andy keep folklore.org? Andy Hertzfeld, not Andy Nacco. Keep folklore.org current, because that was a great repository and still up of very useful original Macintosh stuff. I don't know if there's been anything recently posted there, but if you want to read the lore of the original Macintosh, Andy Hertzfeld, one of the original Mac team.
But you can hear, like, for example, Scott Forstall saying, well, the secret origin of the iPhone is that Lorene had this friend who worked at Microsoft, and he came over to dinner, and he's like, we have this tablet that's going to just destroy you. And Steve got so angry.
Remember that? Yes.
I
remember that story.
Shut this guy down.
Yeah. Anyway, so a couple of legends, very important people in the computer industry. Also, if you saw the great movie Hidden Figures, Katherine Johnson, who was the mathematician who helped Apollo get to the moon, passed away this week at the age of 101.
Wow. What a great lead. They said they asked her for the moon and she gave it to them.
Yep.
Wow. Very impressive.
With a calculator.
An interesting study. We talked about this earlier on iOS Today of smart speakers. The smart speakers study from Northeastern University, Imperial College of London. They took all the smart speakers, including Apple's HomePod, the Google devices, the Echo devices, the Cortana devices, and made them watch TV. 125 hours of Netflix content with cameras pointed at them to see when they activated accidentally. There's the test set up.
Why are there any fights in there?
Yeah, they did a similar study recently. I think the same lab did a similar study on asking the same question about smartphones by isolating them from all other distractions and seeing if they were collecting information strictly through the microphones, and they came to the same conclusions that it's just not happening.
Here are the findings. So first, the question everyone's worried about. There is no evidence they were constantly recording. They do wake up frequently, but for short intervals. How often do they activate? The average rate of activations is between 1.5 and 19 times a day during our experiments. HomePods and Cortanas activate the most, followed by Echo Dots, Google Home Mini, and Echo Dot Series 3. The majority, this is the weird one, and I think though anybody who has one of these devices in their living room knows this, they don't occur consistently. So they did this 12 times, and only 8% of the activations happened every time, at least 75% of the time.
That's why they're so maddening.
Yeah. Sometimes they activate for the strangest wake words. Sometimes they don't activate for their own wake words.
Yep.
Are there any TV shows that do not cause activations? No. All shows cause at least one device to wake up at least once.
If these devices are really smart, though, then they were just behaving for the test.
The Gilmore Girls and The Office are the worst. They're responsible for the majority of activations. It's because they have a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of talking.
They say
anything
sorry
by Sorkin,
a lot.
too.
They say sorry a lot. In most cases, the activations aren't long enough to save sensitive audio. Echo Dot 2 and saves the longest, 20 to 43 seconds. HomePod and the majority of Echo devices, more than half the activations last 6 seconds or more. So yeah, I guess they are long enough to get you doing other things. Do you want to know what the fake wake words are for the HomePod? Words rhyming with hi or hey, followed by something that starts with S and a vowel, or when a word includes a syllable that rhymes with re, as in Siri. For example, he clearly, they very, hey sorry, okay yeah, and seriously. I've had that one get me many times.
The first season of Grey's Anatomy, because they keep going seriously, it was constant.
Yeah, constant. Hi Mrs., Faith's funeral, historians, I see, I'm sorry, and they say.
You wonder. Our apologies to everybody.
You wonder if
I wonder what percentage of our audience's series got activated.
You wonder if they could put metadata in so that if you have an Apple TV actually producing the content, it could talk to your HomePod and go, no, not that. Like just like that. Little tags along the show where it would just tell all your devices that are on your network that just not at this moment.
What?
Because you have all the text.
Or at least because it has all those microphones, you could steer it towards, here is the location of the speaker of my television. Please ignore anything that comes out of this TV.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Yeah.
Well, again, the Apple TV would know that it's on and be able to tell the devices match the signal that I'm putting out to.
That seems a lot more complicated than it needs to be. But then again, there a lot of these systems. I know that Google and Amazon have systems at the back ends that if it's getting a lot of false activations, like across the entire network, it gets the idea that okay, there's a commercial that is has something that's triggering this device unnecessarily, and then for the remainder of the 80% of devices, it will say ignore. If you hear something like this, ignore this, or rather, I'm not going to respond to this thing at this moment right now.
Or sarcastically. You know what I mean? This morning we tested the HomePod and we asked the HomePod how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? And Siri said, a woodchuck it's a groundhog. It's not going to tell you anything. It goes, it's more likely to tell you that winter is going to last longer. It's more likely to tell you that winter.
That's a very good answer.
But the Amazon said 700, and the Amazon solution was 770. I think 774 with the wind at their back. So it was, very two very different.
How much wood
opinions.
could a woodchuck chuck if a wood?
Okay, hold on.
Let me ask Google. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Excellent transcription, I might add.
Every woodchuck is different, each with their own hypothetical chucking abilities. Still, from my read of the literature, one would have to chuck at least their own body weight to be competitive.
That's a good answer.
Very nerdy. I like that.
By the way, in the voice of Issa Rae, which is kind of even better.
We got into the conversation because of the Geico commercial.
Yeah, those woodchucks.
Yeah.
Apple is got some paying to do. $440 million to be exact. On Monday, the Supreme Court refused to hear Apple's appeal to avoid paying $440 million in damages for using VernetX's internet security technology. By the way, VernetX is what we call a non-practicing entity, an NPE.
Which I don't think should be allowed to have patents.
I agree.
I think if you don't activate your patent, if you don't do something with your patent in X number of years, you shouldn't be allowed to have it. You shouldn't be allowed to sue anyone
for it. The suit's been
it.
going on for 10 years. Back to 2010, they filed suit in the Eastern District of Texas.
So the question that I have for this is, it appears that they lost the judgment. Then, after losing the judgment, they invalidated almost all the patents. Then somehow the court says they still have to pay. It seems a very odd.
Court of Appeals, which is for Washington, which does the patent disputes, upheld the judgment, and the Supreme Court declined to review.
Supreme Court? No. The Supreme Court or the federal? I think that it's
the United States Supreme Court.
Go. Okay.
I don't think there's anybody above that except God.
I thought it was.
And the president. So
The Hague, Leo. You can take it to
in
the
that
Hague.
order. Take it to the Hague.
They're gonna have to pay it.
They're gonna have to pay it.
They got the money.
Yeah.
It's like a half a day of work.
Yeah, $500 million, big deal. I think we have concluded we could. I don't know. Do you want to do rumors car key feature? We'll let you send digital keys using messages. That's kind of cool. If you want to drive my car, I can message you.
I want house keys like this. I want this for all my keys.
Yeah.
So long as you can
a rumor, or is that already in the beta?
I think it's
data?
in the code. Yeah.
So that's not really a rumor. It's just
that's
when
real.
or will it actually, come to fruition?
It's in the 13.4 beta.
I'm dreaming of being keyless by the end of this year. Right. I'm close. I'm down to 2 keys.
My new car is keyless.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is car companies are going to have to support it, and they're glacial in their adoption
But keyless,
rates.
like you don't have a fob?
No, it's a phone.
But that's something they'll use to upsell you to the next model of aspirational car. Google is putting the same thing into Android. The interesting thing from here is how many restrictions are the user going to be able to put on these keys? Like, can you create digital keys that expire automatically in 24 hours? Are they creating digital keys that can only be used on this actual device? I was talking to an engineer at Volvo 3 or 4 years ago when they introduced this kind of technology into some of their upper tier cars, and one of the things they were talking about is they were hoping to sell more cars to fleets, so that a company who has just a fleet of company cars, they could simply, if someone needs a car for the day, they could simply email them or issue them a digital key, essentially having their own private ride sharing or car rental system. So is there going to be a flurry of apps on the App Store to create your own private rental beach rental SUV system?
Well, I also am interested in the valet saying this key will not open the trunk, but will open the door and allow it to start. And when I leave this location, it'll invalidate. As soon as I leave here, it's not going to work anymore.
Or even better, for a valet or your kid saying, I'm giving you a digital key that tells the car computer, speed limit this car to 40 miles per hour, and also deactivate if it tries to leave this geo-fenced area. Yep. Just like you can create valet mode in your regular cars.
Turn all the cameras on. Turn all the 360 camera I was kind of amazed that I still don't know how it did it. I was borrowing Colleen's car, and
you drive the finest vehicles.
I know. So Colleen Henry, who used to work here, has an i8, and I was driving her i8 around.
Beamer.
Yeah, but it does this crazy thing with the cameras where I was driving out a parking lot, and I looked at the camera, and it showed a 360 degree. It looked like it was from above.
Down. You could see the car. Yeah,
you could see the car, and I was like, okay, this is.
I've had that for years.
I know. It was new for me.
Welcome to the 21st century.
It was new for me. I was like, this. I don't even know what I would do with this.
No, I'm getting I want a follow drone.
Electric
I want like a
Mustang Mach-E, and that is a carless entry. In fact, it doesn't even have handles on the door. You just walk up to it and it opens for you. Keyless entry.
Should I wait 2 more years to buy a car so that I can wait around for a car key?
Always wait. I've been waiting.
Always wait 2 years.
That's how my car died, was because I was waiting for the next. I keep on going. Well, I can go another year. Because the better car will come out. But to go back to Andy's point, I think that the drone has to go into the car, and it launches out of the car at speed, and just so you're driving, you go, I need a little bit more. I need a little more perspective.
Yeah.
And the drone just pops out of the car and goes up and goes and sees what's going on and comes back and lands in the car while it's moving.
Costume.
It's very Batman.
Like Spider-Man.
Yeah. Let's take a break. Your picks, gentlemen. Prepare them, and ladies.
Oh, Leo, before you break, Bob Iger just resigned.
Of Disney.
Yeah.
Wow.
Effective immediately.
Bob Chapek has been named Chief Executive Officer.
Interim until Apple buys the company.
He's not gonna. Iger will stay executive chairman till next year. So why did he resign? Was this planned or?
He's been trying to for a while, right? And they just keep saying, "No, don't go. You've done so much for us. Don't go." Yeah. And then one of his heirs fell through, and another one fell through, but it goes back to that Bill Gates, Steve Jobs thing, where I guess he feels like he's done enough.
Yeah. He has done enough. He's only a little older than me.
Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel.
If I had done all that, I would retire too.
He's run out of things I loved as a child that he could ruin.
He owns 80% of my childhood.
Meanwhile, I have to go to LastPass's party tomorrow and catch COVID-19
in an Iron Man suit.
No, I'm going to be there, but I won't. I'll just elbow bump, right?
Exactly.
Don't even elbow bump. Just nod.
Don't even do that.
It's a kind nod.
A nod. If I nod at you, I'll be happy to see you.
How about a regal wave, Leo?
Yeah.
Could you do a regal wave?
Of course I can. Like you're screwing in a light bulb.
Do that.
Yeah. I'll just, maybe they'll have a booth for me, and I could just be in a sealed booth and wave.
Like a Pope-mobile. Like a Pope-mobile golf cart.
A Leo-mobile.
The Leo-mobile. No, I'm not worried. I'm very healthy. Our show today brought to you by Casper. Actually, I was talking about this with Micah on iOS today. The highlight of my day lately has been going to bed. Is that crazy? Isn't that the best feeling though when it's been a long day, you're tired, you finally, you go into the bedroom and you pull back the covers and you get in bed. It's such a good feeling. You pull the covers up. And for me, it's all because of my Casper. My fabulous Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. I don't care however much it costs. I don't care. I love my Casper, but you might care the fact that Caspers are so affordable, partly because they don't have a showroom. The mattress store markup is up more than 100%. Casper sells direct to you, and so they can give you a great deal. The Casper products are obsessively designed. Look at that. It comes in a small box. This is a king-size mattress in a box the size of a dorm room fridge. You open it up, the bed goes whoosh, and it's amazing. The original Casper combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep service with the right amount of both sink and bounce. Its breathable design lets you sleep cool. That's really important. Regulates your body temperature throughout the night, gives you a better night's sleep. And I think I'm not alone. 20,000 reviews, an average of 4.8 stars on the Casper site on Amazon and Google. It is fast becoming the internet's favorite mattress. I know it's mine. Now, there are a variety of Caspers. There's the Wave, which features a patent-pending premium support system that mirrors the natural shape of your body. The Essential, a streamlined design, but at a price that won't keep you up at night. And the one I just opened up and I sleep on, the Hybrid, it's got durable yet gentle springs, so it provides the pressure relief of the award-winning foam, but also has a firmness. And I'm a little heavy. Rolling out of bed, the springs give me that edge. Is a nice firm support. I don't fall out of bed. I can get out of bed. It's very nice. Casper offers a wide array of other products too: the pillows, the sheets, the Casper Glow lamp. I am such a fan, and you can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free sleep on it trial, free shipping, and painless returns to the U.S. and Canada, so there's no risk at all. Right now, we're going to get you $100 towards select mattresses. If you go to Casper.com/MacBreak, $100 off, but you have to use the code MacBreak at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. That's $100 off select mattresses by going to Casper.com/MacBreak. Enter the code MacBreak at checkout. Casper. I love my Casper. I love it. I think I'm going to go with Lori's pick today. What's your pick of the week?
Oh, I thought you were saying that you're just going to go buy what my pick of the week is.
I am going to buy it. I bought the 12 South AirPod container. I bought the blankie. I've been very happy. I bought the airplane pillows.
So this one you might just kind of for this one, but I am super excited about it. So March 20th, Animal Crossing New Horizons comes out on Nintendo Switch, and Animal Crossing is one of my favorite games. I have a lot of fun with it. I collect all the amiibo.
Tell me why I should play this, because I've tried and I don't get it.
It's definitely it depends on like what you enjoy playing. It's very much a time management kind of game where you go and you collect little things and you craft things and stuff like that. So it's not for everyone. It's not a universal game. It's definitely for people who like certain types of games.
People love it.
They do, and I do. And what I want to talk about right now is that you can pre-order a Nintendo Switch Animal Crossing New Horizons video game console, and it's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
I should get this just to punk my 17-year-old boy who will be so revolted. It's pastel blue and green. Cute. It's got the little animal. Kawaii.
Yeah, it has all these cute little, those are like the little characters from Animal Crossing on the outside of it. The colors are absolutely adorable. You should see how hard it was for me to not buy this. I already have a Nintendo Switch. I cannot justify buying another one, but I wanted to so bad. It's so cute.
Do you play Animal Crossing primarily on the Switch?
This is going to be the first game to come out on Nintendo Switch. I have New Leaf on my Nintendo DS, which I actually have not played in a very long time, since I got a Nintendo Switch, actually. But I've been playing Animal Crossing Pocket Camp on the iPhone since it came out. And so that's kind of been satiating my desire for more Animal Crossing until this game that's coming out on March 20th.
Nice.
So.
Wonderful. I should give it a try. You think this will be the best version to play?
Not necessarily. It's definitely got some new gaming features that might be appealing. But I wouldn't be surprised if you don't like this type of game. It's very low maintenance, slow.
I like that.
You go around collecting things and building little houses and talking to villagers. It's very calming and relaxing.
It's a little Stardew Valley, isn't it?
A little, yeah.
I don't like that either.
Which is also another huge game for similar reasons. It's just kind of this joyous life in someone else's world kind of experience.
Yeah. I want to kill something. I don't know. It's just me. It's not a game if I don't kill something.
Or solve a puzzle, maybe.
No, I'm kidding. Actually, that's one of the nice things about this. It's very gentle and sweet. Animal Crossing Nintendo Switch, $299.99 at your Best Buy. Andy Anatko, your pick of the week.
One quick one and an app. I saw a really great opera at the Met a couple weeks ago, Agrippina. It's going to be on Met broadcast to local theaters as a live Met and HD performance on Saturday, the 29th. And I just got to say that it was the funny when I go to a lot of operas at the Met. Rarely am I laughing so hard that I'm trying to stifle my laughter, because there are a lot of crusty people around who are you're not supposed to laugh at people on stage doing things that are trying to provoke laughter. So if you've often heard me like talk about opera, I say, I'd like to see something someday. You can go to a local theater. Tickets will cost it's a premium ticket, so it'll cost like $25 or $30. They've got subtitles. You'll be able to understand everything. It's just funny as hell. It's the performances
Caesars were so humorous.
Yes, well, it takes part in modern day. Basically, the story is that yeah, exactly. It takes it's a 300-year-old opera, but of course they recast it in modern age, so you won't have to think like it's not people in togas like with swords and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And the performance is so good. Joyce DiDonato, I'm a huge fan of her. Did not know about Kate Lindsay, who plays Nero. And I liked her so much that I had to oh, look, she's got a CD. Oh, look. And after listening to it once, it's yeah, I definitely got to buy that. So like I said, if you're curious about opera, it's a way to do it without having to wait for your local city to have an opera season or to fly out to the Met. So go to metopera.org to find a local theater that's actually showing it. It's going to be a 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, I think, on Saturday. But the app is a really cool list app that I came across for iOS. It's called Spend Stack. And I love these apps that focus on one thing, but prosecute that idea so thoroughly that anybody who has a need for a list that involves money will find a solution in this app. And that really is all it is. It's making lists that have of things that involve dollar amounts. So if you are trying to get a handle on, I wonder how much I spend on coffee, you can create a list of a list that which you enter every time you buy coffee, how much you spent, and it'll keep a running total. Or you can think that, here's everything that I want to buy for my office remodel, and every time you come across something you think you want to get, put on the list, put in the dollar amount, it will give you a running total and tell you what you want to do. But it's how detailed they prosecuted this idea. If you know that there's sales tax involved in your city, it will factor in sales tax. It will factor in conversion rates for money. Obviously, you can create labels and tags so that if you have every time you create an entry for something, you can just say, how much am I spending on just snacks during my commute? How much am I spending on how am I doing on my utilities every single month? You can do it for budgeting. You can do it for project management. You can share lists through iCloud, and it supports pretty much all the stuff that Apple is honking on about really great features of iOS that raise it above the bar. So it's $5 and you own it for good. No ads, no nothing. And it's just such a beautifully created app that I almost want to recommend it as buy it, put it on your phone, and then you will find yourself within the next 2 to 7 weeks creating lists that are going to help you out because you're keeping track of money for projects or for just your own personal finances. Really, really well done stuff.
Spend Stack and Agrippina. Thank you, Andrew. Renee Ritchie, your pick of the week.
So I am playing the role of Alex Lindsay today, and for that I am both sorry and not sorry.
Wait a minute. Alex is going to be extremely Alex Lindsay today. So you'll just be regular Alex Lindsay.
I'm baby Alex, like usual, like Baby Yoda. That's just sort of the thing I've fallen into.
Wow. Can I just say that the idea of an Alex to an Alex... that is, I'm going to have to just sit back for a second.
It's Alexponential.
Alexception.
So I have a tripod, and it is not just a normal tripod. This tripod, if you've ever been flummoxed or just frustrated by a tripod where you had to flip up a bunch of things and then lower one leg at a time and try and get it even, there's just one, you pull this and then you lift it up or you push it down. You don't have to bend over. You don't have to do anything else. You pull all three of them up, and then you just adjust it. And it has a little flip here. You can pull that up and you can pull the legs completely 180 degrees. It is so fast to set up, to change. If you shoot a lot of things and you do a lot of sets and you want to move between B-roll and you want to move between setups, or you're outside and you want to move between different locations, you can buy just the legs. It is expensive. I did say it was an Alex Lindsay style pitch. So the legs themselves are expensive. The head, you can get a discount. Like you can just get a Manfrotto ball head and then put any flow head you want to on top of that. They do make their own head, which is even more expensive, but it's got its own ball built in. It's got a back illuminated level built into it. it's just they've thought of so many things. The bottoms come off quickly if you want to spike it into the ground. It is just the fastest, easiest, most convenient tripod I have ever owned or used. You pay a premium for that convenience, but if you are shooting a lot of stuff and you're moving around a lot and you need to do a lot of setups and you need to do them as fast as possible, it's one of those things where, again, I'm just copying Alex shamelessly here. It pays for itself in terms of production time, because production time can be so expensive. I got it a couple of weeks ago and I've been super happy with it. The tripod is, depending on the sales, is between 1,000 and 1,200, maybe 1,300. Wow. The head is around 1,700.
Whoa!
But it's one of those things where you buy it once and you should be able to use it for like.
And the
worst
part is that that's still just getting started in tripods. Tripods are crazy, and this one looks amazing. It's so light and easy to. I haven't used this one. I've seen it in places, but I've never actually got to use it, and it's an amazing looking tripod.
Renee just made Alex go whoa twice in reaction to a price. I am impressed.
Well, no, well,
that is not easy.
So I rent most of my tripods because the retail price on the tripods that I get, the head is $15,000.
Yeah,
and I'm wow. I can't. Like it's and I can tell the difference between that head and a $1,000 head or $2,000 head, but I'm not going to buy it. I mean, I would have to use it every day for years, and that's what rental companies do.
Well, as an example, like this comes off side, like you can just press a button and the camera comes off sideways. You don't have to move it forward or backward, especially if you're against a wall or you have something set up in front of it. You just peel the camera off sideways, and it's a standard Manfrotto plate, so you can slap it onto anything else, a slider or a gimbal, anything you want. So you are paying for that. You're not paying like what a studio would use, because when you talk about this prosumer stuff, it's expensive for consumers, but it's not expensive for pros.
Right. It's carbon fiber, so it's really light. It must be really light.
Yes.
That's amazing. It looks like a great tripod. As I said, I've seen it.
I would spend that much for a tripod. I want it to be heavy.
No, you got to carry it places. You got to do things with it. It's still
be strong.
It can still be solid.
All right, we got.
I don't think it works that way.
I got a tripod. Hold on.
You got a tripod.
My tripod is not nearly as nice as
ferrying this thing all around the studio, all through the show. People have been asking in the chat room, "What's that? What's that?" Alex has something special. He's been doing here. I don't know what. You could put it in the camera shot. There we go, so we can kind of see it.
It's not nearly as nice as.
So just to describe it for those of you listening, it looks a little bit like one of those point pan tilt zoom cameras. It's a dome.
It's not quite in the frame.
It's got a green light. It's come on, you know about video ready. You know about framing. So now it's in front of her head. Now move it a little more, Alex. It's now covering Lori's face.
Oh, she asked for it. She said move it in further.
Oh man, that's what they all say. Yeah, that's the Weinstein defense. All right, leave it right there. Good. Okay.
That's terrible.
It was terrible. I know.
So it is a. So this is a Leica. It's a BLK 360. So what it does is it's a mixture of a 360 scan as well as a 360. It'll take a 360 picture, but it also does a laser scan. So it's got a little mirror in there that spins and it fires a laser out and it captures the distance that everything is from this camera. And the reason that I'm talking about it on MacBreak, I mean, it's not normally the thing I would talk about on MacBreak because it's a $16,000 camera.
No, that wouldn't stop you. What are you, crazy?
I know, of course not. It's one of those things. But anyway, but what it does is it works with the iPad so well. And so of all the LiDAR scanners that I've had the opportunity to play with, there's a lot of ones that this is like the entry level cost for a LiDAR scanner. For all the ones that I've used, I've never seen anything just tie in. So I was like, I had to use it. The first time I had to use it, I was like, oh, I need to like spend a whole bunch of time figuring out how to use it. Literally, you pop it up, the Wi-Fi hits your iPad, and you have you download what's called Recap from Autodesk. Recap talks to it, and immediately it's like, I see the scanner, and so and it just pops up. You say, I want to do a new scan. So let's see here. Let's see if I can show. Can I show that?
Yeah, bring it over here. You can get my over-the-shoulder shot, guys. Right? So, let's see if they get the shot. He's pushing buttons.
There's a whole bunch of I just threw a curve into the system.
Well, we're supposed to have this shot set up. I don't know why we don't.
So anyway, the
hold on. Is this shot not always set up? Okay.
There we go.
Oh, I guess not. Jeez. Can you unzoom it? John doesn't normally run the board on the show.
Okay, that's fine. It'll work. Okay. So if we look at this here, this is the image that it just took a couple minutes ago.
Oh wow! So it's already in your iPad.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. Is it just pops in? So then, if I want to look at the map view, this is what, and it's doing this automatically. These are all the points that I've already scanned. You see the little black areas that I did.
Is it using LiDAR? What is it?
It's using LiDAR.
Wow.
So this is laser scanning the entire studio, and I'll come in next week with a actual 3D.
So
model.
you could have a 3D. Oh,
yeah, because
you're gonna have.
This is just the overhead. It doesn't show you more than this from the iPad.
So, but it's got all the points.
That represents all the 3D points that it's gathered from the studio. And the fact that it is super simple, like you literally turn it on and it just starts scanning and doing its thing, and it grabs all that data, and then to start a new scan, you literally just push this button and it's going.
So it's remotely controlled. In fact, the ring on the device is. Can you show the device now?
Yeah, if you cut to the device, you'll see it.
Is blinking
doing
yellow.
Its thing. So it's getting ready. It's going to start taking photos.
So it's moving around, just like a LiDAR on top of an Uber.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It works a little slower with a little more accuracy. So the
because the ones on the self-driving cars are spinning really fast.
This one will still be spinning, but they're moving. What they do is much harder in a lot of ways.
Right.
So right now it's taking the photos. You can see it kind of turning and stopping.
Right.
So the thing is that what's incredible is the integration, and I think we're going to see more of this. And so this is one of the best integrations I've seen.
It's doing actual photos in addition to the LiDAR.
It first takes the actual photos.
Okay.
Then it will.
It's done. By the way, that was pretty fast.
And then it can use those images.
Now it's going to
start scanning.
Oh,
so now you'll start seeing the little mirror spinning here. So you see
the mirror's spinning really fast.
And it's moving really slowly because it's doing one line at a time.
So it's bouncing light off of every object in its view.
Exactly.
And measuring the amount of time it takes to get back to get a three-dimensional
data.
Wow.
And it's just doing one line at a time, 360,000 points a second. And and so it just slowly moves all the way around. And again, what's interesting about this is how the problem with these devices before this was that they're all like, goofy engineering people making interfaces that you have to tap and do weird stuff to and everything else. And what we see here is a professional piece of hardware that's being completely run from an iPad, and the setup is nothing to do it. And this isn't super high-end LiDAR, but for the use case that I'm using it for is, and I'm borrowing this from another friend.
$18,000 and it's not super high-end?
No, it's a little noisy. But the
well, on the bright side, you get a 1-year subscription for Autodesk Recap Pro.
Well, but the main thing is that I don't want to oversell it, because I've used a bunch of scanners that are $60,000 scanners and $80,000 scanners that are really high, really. But I would use this all the time for site surveys. I got to model this room for something. I got to go out. It's great for. I got to get the data. I mean, when I say rough, it's plus or minus 6 millimeters. So the accuracy is
pretty good.
Very good. So
how would you use this? What would you use this for?
I'm doing a video shoot somewhere in San Francisco next month.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, can I just come down and measure the room? And they were like, sure. And I said, I'm going to bring a laser measure.
Yeah. They thought you were going to have some.
They thought I was going to bring down one of those little things that you point at the wall, and I just brought down a laser measurer. And so I took 5 or 6 scans like I did in this office.
So literally in half an hour, you could get a very, very detailed map.
I have everything.
By the way, I mentioned there's people moving around and stuff, and you don't care about that.
It'll throw that. You'll have some bad pixels here and there, but it doesn't matter for the overall. So now
looking at the static stuff.
Now what happens is when we're planning, I'm no longer going. I don't remember what I didn't measure that. I should have measured that distance between the poles.
You don't have to.
I just go back to the document and measure it, so I can remeasure anything. And what I'm going to do is build a model in SketchUp of that room, so that I can now and especially if I'm going, when you're figuring out all this lighting, for instance, if I wanted to figure out how to attach something complex to this lighting, I won't, I promise. But if I want to do something complex, now I have all that data. I can just sit there and plan it out on my computer and come in. I can print 3D objects that are going to, 3D clamps, or do whatever I want that's going to be perfect for that.
That's really cool.
Now, they also use it for things like forensics. So you go into a crime scene, and you just throw this guy out and go around, and it just gathers the whole crime scene. And that's going to let you go back
how interesting.
and look at the distances.
Yeah.
You can imagine a car accident. Where were the cars actually, and what was there?
So police departments might be using this.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really interesting use.
And what's kept it out was, the expense, which, again, $18,000 is a lot of money, but it's not for this kind of thing.
I'm sure a surveyor's rig costs something like that. I mean, this is not...
Oh, yeah. And so for gathering this data, and what was really problematic was, A, the expense, and B, the complexity of it. And what they've taken away with this iPad is the complexity. It's really a relatively simple.
Could I make a Minecraft level of our studio using this?
Oh yeah.
That's funny. I was just thinking. I wonder, can we use your 3D model to use a 3D printer to build a physical model of the studio? Because that would be really cool.
That be cool? We could definitely print a version of it. I think that what I would typically do is use a mixture. If I was going to print something with color and everything else, we could definitely do it. But I would add photogrammetry to it to add more texture detail.
More importantly, could we use this to plan a heist?
I think George Clooney already has.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you could. You could absolutely do that. I would never, of course, approve of anything like that.
Would not recommend it for heisting.
Yeah,
but it would help defray the cost.
It would take a lot easier to previs the length of the cable, and all those things are much easier when you have 3D data.
So follow-up question: could it be hidden inside, say, like a comically large top hat?
No, if you're moving, you would need flash LiDAR for that, which you could get, but it would not. You'd be better off with just doing photogrammetry at that point.
You see, you thought, Rene Ritchie, this $1,000 tripod, it's really going to set Alex Lindsay back on his heels, but no.
Oh, no, I had no such delusion. I said I was baby Alex and all this.
Oh, my goodness. The Leica BLK 360 LiDAR imaging laser scanner. Get two. That way you save time.
But again, the reason I brought it up was mostly to talk about the fact that more manufacturers should think about this idea of connecting to the iOS apps and let this be the interface. Let it be the interface. Stop trying, literally, there's no interface.
Yeah.
Stop. Just stop. Don't even put an LCD on your machine, because what you build on your own with your development team is not anything near what an iOS device can do. And you should just this is a great example of, we just gave up. We reduced the cost. It reduced the development cost. It reduced the production cost, and it gave a better product. And that's why I wanted to show it.
Nice. Thank you, Alex. Alex is at 090.media. And if you want to have a LiDAR scan of your next event, I would contact him there, or on the Twitter at Alex Lindsay, AlexLindsay. Lori Gill, managing editor at iMore. She's the greatest Appaholic on the Twitter, APPAHOLIK. Anything you want to plug? What are you working on?
No, just go to iMore. Read all of our stuff. We're having a really good time over there.
Again and again. Turn off the ad blocker, as I have. Enjoy the ads. They're delicious.
Embrace the ads. Actually, sign up for Passport, and you see about 10% of those ads instead of as many as you see. Yeah,
that's nice.
So if you sign in to our website, that reduces the amount of ads you see significantly.
Beautiful. That's a good tip. iMore.com. iMore.com/Vector will take you to Rene Ritchie's fabulous theater, where he puts on shows daily, all about all kinds of stuff. How's the Pokemon Go going? Are you staying inside, or are you going to get out there and...
I haven't done the battle leagues yet. They introduced this whole thing, and I just haven't done that yet. I have been doing all the other events and things, but it was so buggy in the beginning, and now they've already moving between great and battle leagues, and I haven't gotten into the PvP stuff yet, Leo, but otherwise it's going fine.
Very nice.
I got my shiny rhinoceroses. So
that's what really counts.
Yes.
Yeah. I was Lickitung hunting just the other day.
Nice.
Did you ever think that you would say that?
No. In fact, that sentence has never come out of my mouth ever before. Mr. Andy Anako, he's with... Oh, I just touched my face. Oh, no, I'm going to die. He's with the beautiful WGBH in Boston. When's your next appearance at the Boston Public Library?
Thursday, and it will indeed be at the Boston Public Library. So come on down and, again, get a cookie, get a cup of coffee. You'll have to pay for both, but you get to watch a pretty good show.
Nice.
Check out my Twitter. I don't know what time yet. I think like 11:30. I could be wrong though. I will tweet out in the morning or the afternoon before.
He's IHNATKO on the Twitter. Thank you all for being here. We love doing MacBreak Weekly. It's kind of part of Apple morning around here. We start with iOS Today at 9 a.m. Pacific, and then MacBreak Weekly follows shortly thereafter, usually around 11:30 a.m. Pacific. That would be 2 p.m. Eastern Time or 1700 UTC. You can watch it or listen to it live at twit.tv/live. You can be in studio, too. We had a great studio audience, including from Boink Software. Oliver was here. Nice to see you, Oliver. He does. He's brought some people with the public broadcasting. He's got these
mobile broadcast unit.
Did you see
that?
It's
amazing.
That mobile broadcast unit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, really cool. And that uses your Mimeo. What is it called? Mimeo. Mimo Live, the Mimo Live software. You can find out more at boinx.com. Thank you, Oliver, and everybody in our studio audience. Great to have you all. All you have to do is email tickets at twit.tv. We'll put a chair out for you. Let's see, what else? If you want to get the show on demand, I know you got a busy life. You can get a copy anytime you want at our website, twit.tv/mbw, or, and this is my recommendation, my pro tip, subscribe in your favorite podcast app. That way it just downloads automatically every week, and you don't have to worry about what time, what day, or any of that stuff. You just listen to MacBreak Weekly. Thanks for being here. Now I have to say it's time to get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.